I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Riley, Kylie.
Wow.
Can I have a roll call, please?
Gilman,
Yes.
Horn.
Yeah.
Lehman,
Yes.
Underwood.
Yes.
Kevin.
Yes.
Well, we're all yes.
Next item is approval of the agenda. We have a staff recommended change to the agenda. Present item, O, which is the tractor mower purchase. Staff has asked that that be removed. And then the present item N, which is disposal of equipment, be moved to O, and then N be replaced with the requested item, which is proposal for structural steel fabrication, Diamond Park Road Bridge over Little Betsy River. So that would be the new item N, and the existing item N, disposal of equipment, will move to O, and then we'll move forward.
Motion to approve the agenda with the changes you just announced.
Okay, so I have a motion from Commissioner Lehman to approve the agenda as amended. Do I have a second? Support by Commissioner Horn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Next item is conflict of interest. Does any member of the board have any conflict of interest regarding any items on the agenda? Seeing none, we'll move on to the next item, public comment. Does any member of the public have any comment at this point? Seeing none, moving on, we have no appointments, so we'll go to 7B, consent calendar. Kylie.
The consent calendar is used to expedite business by grouping non-controversial items together without discussion. Request by any person present to remove any item from the consent calendar for full discussion as agenda items are automatically respected. The action noticed in parentheses for all items remaining on the consent calendar are approved by a single commission action adopting the consent calendar. The manager recommends the following items be adopted. 1, minutes. 2, payroll. 3, accounts payable. 4, financial reports. And 5, communications.
Does any member of the board wishes to remove any item from the consent calendar? Does any member of the staff or public want to remove any item from the consent calendar?
I'll make the motion to approve the consent calendar as presented.
Second.
We have a motion from Commissioner Horn and second by Commissioner Underwood to approve the consent calendar. Roll call, please.
Corn.
Yes.
Lehman.
Yes.
Underwood.
Yes.
Gilman.
Here.
Kevin.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. On to 7D, reports. This is Commissioner to discuss any items from the staff report, which is on page 44 of your packet. Does anyone have any questions regarding?
And
Actually, I don't see a report here.
I was gonna say, I'm just.
Yeah, I'm
we
not
got
seeing the
calendar.
report here.
It's on
Yeah.
there.
No, it's not on the packet.
You looking at the website or email?
Email.
Email, even the updated one. I'm looking at the updated one that got sent.
I'm on the website. It's on 44.
It's not on the packet that we got.
Well, I read all of the weekly updates we get by email, and I just want to
Yeah,
say I was
yeah.
happy about
There's a
Gonder Road,
lot of stuff.
Gonder and Riley Road. Thank
Yeah.
you. That started last year when I represented Green Lake, and I know people are really excited about it, so.
So Dan, is there anything on the report that you want to bring to the board's attention? We didn't, yeah, this report is not in our packet for some reason.
Oh, well.
Do you want me to email that?
I'm working on it.
Okay. Anyone, Wayne Engineering or anyone else regarding any items of the report, staff report?
You have anything, for the special to bring up on anything?
I spoke with the auditor this week and we're gonna do some preliminary work starting next week. And then he'll, depending on how that goes, he may schedule the day of field work in the office here next week or probably the following week, so.
Well, it's done on time this year.
All right.
And he's just started discussions, I think, with Pace, and he hasn't even contacted the county yet, so
Okay,
we're ahead of him.
all right, very good.
That's an interesting perspective. I mean,
Being ahead of the game.
well, no, but I mean, to have major county units.
Oh, yeah.
Falling under the audit umbrella at the same time. Not a bad idea, actually, once a great one.
Moving on to item E, commissioner updates. Commissioner, I'll start with Commissioner Corn.
We had a really good Bluff Road meeting. I think I've talked to some of you guys about it. Alan, can talk about it too. It was really positive. Jennifer Graham. Yeah, she got married, from Gordy Fraser submitted an appropriations request to Senator Peters' office on behalf of the County Road Commission. Kylie and Dan worked on the letter and supporting documentation that we needed. We have reason to believe that we have a good standing for approach on this round because Peters did a photo op on Bluff Road at the exact place of the failure and mentioned this would be a great place for funding through the coastal zone management and shoreline erosion programs, which of course Senator Peters is involved in. I will be meeting with Senator Peters' office. I reached out to some friends and Senator Peters and I worked together on the funding for Cass Road Bridge many years ago when I was in office. And I enjoy Senator Peters very much and I enjoy working with him. So I'm going to meet with his local representative here and Peninsula Township kind of gave a head nod for all of us are working together, I guess is what I'll say, the township and the county road commission. In looking for funding and appropriating potentially funding to cover both sides, the county road commission side and Peninsula Township side. So I will certainly let you guys know how that goes, but I thought it was a great meeting. I think Alan did a good job and I think it went well. And the people that I've talked to out on Old Mission, as you know, I have family out there and everything, they're really happy with it and where it's going. It was a positive thing. And also good article Sunday, Larry and Rachel were in the paper about the technology that we have here at the Road Commission. And I thought it was a really nicely done piece to share with people, not only the technology we use to help us make decisions, but the technology that's available to our residents by logging into our computer or hopefully future logging in and using the app and all of that. And I thought it was a really great article. So well done.
Thank you. Commissioner Underwood, any updates on any meetings that you attended?
Couple of things. I was at the CRA conference. What do you want to know about monarch butterflies?
Oh, boy.
Not much at this point.
I said, well, actually, there's good news on that one because CRA is looking at doing a statewide mitigation of which we could just buy into, which I thought was rather unique approach so that each county is going to figure out what to do. So if they make determination, I also sat through a couple other other seminars on TAMC, which is the asset management, and some other things. Got some things, talked to some road builders, encourage them to look for our projects in bid, even though they're not in the area. So
Yeah.
just to have more than one bid. The other thing is I've had some conversations with some of the board members at the airport as it relates to infrastructure around the airport. The airport's been in the news quite a bit. They're planning on doubling their traffic at the gates. They're building that,
Through the gate
Cargo
expansion this
facility.
year. Yeah.
all of it's still going through the same intersection on South Airport. They repeatedly tell me they can't help us with any funding. So I've been pushing them for traffic studies, or at least partner with us on traffic studies, partner with us to try to find money. so that we don't have a Frankie Road situation. And that we can be proactive. I mean, if they're gonna go from 800,000 passengers to 1.6 million. Through the same intersection, we're gonna have a problem. That affects Gar South Airport, it affects, blank. Town line, sorry. And, so I've expressed them, and they've expressed their willingness, well. the Members of the board have expressed their willingness to come in and sit down with us and talk. I guess Kevin's on vacation this week. But I hope that they follow up on that very much. And I also got word from Wayne that Beta did finally give us, make sure we have all those data points on where their stops are, so maybe we can move ahead with some of that kind of stuff too, so. As we try to look at the full infrastructure situation.
Thank you. Commissioner Gilman,
Well,
any updates?
just reflecting on that before the town line thing, it really would be nice to get a commitment from the airport if they're going to, I mean, otherwise we can say, well, that's great, you're gonna increase traffic.
Mhm.
That's just wonderful, but there has to be some reciprocity in terms of the service that we provide them. And if they want it to be as well, I mean, when somebody drives into the airport, drives out of the airport, it reflects on them. If the road in front is not in that great a shape, and by golly, town line is absolutely terrible if somebody were to go straight.
And even South Airport on the east side.
It would be, yeah, exactly. So it'd be very nice to get some support, and as you say, for at least a traffic study to understand where it's coming in and going and everything. As far as, we've had our, engineering, meetings, we've talked about Bluff Road, and that's come down that way. Also, we were talking about Jefferson. And do we have recommendations on Jefferson today? Did we decide?
I don't think we got there. Jefferson.
No, I don't think so either. But everything, of course, is premised on quotes that were made by prior individuals in our engineering, and of course, the disappointment that follows when those quotes are found to be inaccurate. So we're working through some of those things.
Is Jefferson possible for 24? Or are we looking at 25?
I think we're probably looking at 25 at this point. Yeah, I mean, we're not,
There's nothing possible, okay.
we don't have plans or anything at this point because we have no approval on the actual design.
Right. Okay,
And we're talking width of the road, we're talking the materials on the sides of the road, whether we're using a particular surface or shoulder, what we're gonna do with the shoulders and what have you.
And it is a pretty small section of road. If for some reason it did come up with funding without changing the scope of the project. I mean, we could probably get that in, just not a turn, Wayne. For during the year, there's a potential, but I don't know if we can get the numbers for it.
okay.
Yeah.
I was gonna hold that one up.
And of course, I'll let Alan finish for the rest of it, because we're working together on a lot of this stuff.
We just, the Hampshire Hills, we concluded tonight, they're gonna give them a final price that hopefully they can accept, and we'll do a special assessment.
And we've come a long way. Originally, the scope of the work was, 24 feet, I believe, and then, the width, and then of course, full replacement of the culvert. We had backed off to sleeving the culvert. That still left a bad taste in their mouth. They don't want to pay for that either. And by the way, the width is still too high a price tag. And, so what we're leaving them with, we've agreed. We think that this will work, is the 22, and we'll just leave the culvert for now. And, see if they can accept it. It's still a little higher than they want to pay, but at some point, they need a road.
All right, Commissioner Lehman?
The only thing I have to know, they talked about the committee work that we've done, is, I think, I want to recognize, Alyssa's husband, who was talking about, retiring, and I think has been a really good friend to the road commission, frankly, and Garfield has changed, one of our local municipalities is really changing their form of government to have a full-time manager and a part-time supervisor, and I think that'll probably take a while for them to get used to that, and for us to get used to it with them too. And I think, I've lived in Garfield for quite a while, and I think Garfield is very proactive for their citizens, and I've appreciated the job that they've done over there. And Chuck, of course, as a leader.
Well, when he's sitting around the house every day, I'll send him over to Lehman's house to hang out.
Well, there's opportunities in the gravel pit.
And maybe taking you up on that. Yeah, a lot of together.
Does he want to really pick loader?
Thank you.
Thank
The only thing I want to add is, kind of piggybacking off of what Commissioner Underwood was talking about. I'm sure a lot of you have already read about it, heard about it, that there's a proposed new development going on the land next to Costco. There's supposed to be some type of a logistical and technical hub. That is, the idea is that it's going to be a warehouse for a lot of the supply chain type of, where instead of truck traffic bringing in goods, they're trying to build warehouses there where the airport is going to be the mechanism or the tool where they're going to be flying in those goods rather than relying on truck traffic. And then there's going to be R&D type of businesses going in there. From what they have represented so far, the developers, it's not going to be housing components. It's purely going to be warehousing, logistical hub, plus R&D type and business tenants. How that impacts us is that road, I believe it's called Judson Road. That is that road that opens up to South Airport Road from, if you go out the back way from Costco. That is the road that's going to be the entry and exit point for that development. And from the airport zoning board that is reviewing those permit applications, traffic was one of the things that they talked about on South Airport Road and off of Judson Road. And one of the things that caught my attention was that they were talking about installing a traffic light at that intersection, and that's what prompted a discussion on doing some type of a traffic assessment or a traffic impact study on South Airport Road, because I don't know when one was done last time on South Airport Road. Yes, Wayne.
In some past research, when Costco went in, they did a traffic impact study. They're at Town Line and for that main entrance. The traffic impact study and the requirements also states in there that a traffic impact study will be required at that Judson intersection when those parcels develop.
Okay,
So the language is already in there, so we are covered. We just have to inform them, we want that done.
okay, so that's something, obviously, that is in conjunction with the discussions with the airport regarding them becoming some sort of financial partner with us as we work, because now it's a great thing. It's a good thing for our area to have that type of development coming into, but we have to then also address the impact it's going to have on our road, not just on South Airport Road, but 3 Mile Road, Town Line Road, those are all interconnected. And so I believe we are going to be having some, like Commissioner Underwood said, we're going to be having some discussions to see how that is going to impact the road commission, our roads, our ability to maintain them, improve them, and how the airport can contribute to them, especially looking down in the future where they're expecting traffic at that airport to increase. They are themselves planning expansions on the airport itself. So I think it's the right time to start talking about those types of, because we're already talking about capacity issues and resiliency issues. So that corridor there is very important to the airport. I'm optimistic that we could have those discussions with them.
Isn't that Judson Drive a private road? Oh, I thought it had a blue sign. There's a green sign? Okay.
I like to say that we've hit exponential growth.
Which is a good thing, but we need to then,
We had a plan for the 200,000.
Exactly.
That'll be here in 2040, 2045.
Mr. Chair, I do have one thing I forgot
Yes.
on that note. I'm sorry. At the Bluff Road Committee, we mentioned something quickly, but I wanted to bring it up now. So we're talking about growth. One of the sticking points on Bluff Road has been the fact that it's really two different types of projects. It's a shoreline erosion issue, a stabilization of the shoreline, and then also repairing of a road that broke because of it. And one of the things we were talking about with the Peninsula Township trustees is at what point does a person that has some riparian rights in inland lake or somebody on the Great Lakes where the state is involved, as you know, with the rights. When you have waterfront footage on your, say, your farm on Old Mission, and the erosion is coming in and you know it's coming towards a road, a public road or a public piece of infrastructure, where does the burden fall on the homeowner versus the municipality who owns the public infrastructure? So if you're a homeowner and every year your bluff's eroding and you know that a road is probably gonna collapse. And the road commission can't fund shoreline erosion control. That's not what we do, nor are we able to do that. So is there a point in time where the homeowner has some culpability in doing preventative maintenance before it reaches a point where it damages publicly owned infrastructure? This is not the time to have that. We need to fix Bluff Road, and we talked about that. But in the future, we all know, especially those of us that have been here a long time, it's about every 30 years that the water goes. I mean, Old Mission, if you go out to the lighthouse, right? It's like clockwork. We all know it. So if we know that the Great Lakes rises and lowers and rises and lowers, and we're just at a rise, and we're at a lower now. In preparation for the future rise of the water again, shouldn't we be, I don't know if legislating is the right word, but shouldn't we be discussing where that falls so that in the future we can prevent anything like a Bluff Road happening again? We all can have those discussions because we're surrounded by shoreline and erosion here. And who plays that role or sets those policies or makes those decisions? But Bluff is a good example of it.
Well, it's a great example. And the thing is, our hands are often tied as homeowners, landowners, as townships, road commissions by what's happening in Lansing and then the political environment in Lansing now. I would say that there might be an opportunity for somebody who's soon to be retired to take on a figure.
Already placing finding on, she's hoping to have me.
I just want my closets redone.
Okay, I think we already, but that's a.
It's a Lansing
It's-
role.
it
It is a
Lansing-
Lansing problem.
In that particular instance, so obviously there's a difference between the Great Lakes and the inland. lakes, Right, so in this case, we're talking about the Great Lakes, which is going to be more of a state.
Right, because it's not
so that-
riparian rights and all of
Right,
that.
it's a state issue, and in terms of, and I'm by no means offering any opinion on that. But in terms of the culpability question that you raised, it depends on who's causing also the erosion. If the erosion is due to naturally occurring factors,
That's what,
then I think there is a question whether the culpability truly lies with the homeowner, that is not the source of the erosion and it's just natural factors. Obviously inland lakes, there's a lot of ordinances, township ordinances that address erosion through erosion control efforts, soil erosion control requirements, stormwater runoff, those type of things. But yeah, I think those are not but that's outside the purview of our authority and actually also local because of
it is,
state. Yeah,
but then we ultimately
I
pay
know.
costs for
Right, I
it.
know, and
So
that's-
just a
it's a
discussion.
statewide issue, right?
It's a
Yeah,
statewide
it's a
issue.
statewide issue, and that has happened in several. It's a good discussion to
But
have.
if there's a good understanding of what is going to happen,
Mhm.
and say you're a landowner and you're seeing your property erode away to the point where then it is eroding away the right of way, to the point where it's potentially creating an exacerbated problem for the roadway, and you're gonna lose the service in front of your house or something, you might take some action. It'd be prudent often to take action before it's too late.
I just wanted to let you guys know that because the trustees were really interested in that discussion too. And it's a in the future thing, but we are policymakers and advocate for people, so.
Well,
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to any other items under, so we were at Commissioner Updates E, but I believe we may have covered F two. And so we are gonna move on to item G, which is the decertification resolution of a portion of Old Country Road 611. I believe, Wayne, you're going to present on this?
Yes, this is an older gravel road, old 611. The property owner reached out to us because the the road went down into his property and then just kind of ended. Over time, a natural turnaround sort of developed all over his property. He contacted us with an interest of trying to scale the property back up to the beginning of his property. And even went as far as to offer us additional right of way through easement in order to build a proper turnaround. He had a surveyor out there, took care of all the survey work. He took care of all of the tree removal, and we took care of adding gravel out there. So now we have a nice, proper and legal turnaround at the end of Road 611. So this would be for the reduction of some 331 feet of road that we certify under Act 51.
And I believe you're recommending adoption of this resolution.
So this is,
That is correct.
and this is for 400, or well, roughly 300 and some feet is what we're decertifying.
Yes,
Okay.
Because it's on his property.
correct.
Yeah, yeah, I was looking at the map on that. I was trying to wrap my head around what was the issue there.
0.33 miles.
Yeah, it's
That's the
point what?
0.33 miles, because the next resolution is kind of dovetailed into.
Well,
Yeah.
actually, this is the actual distance is very much smaller. It's only,
0.06.
Point oh six.
0.06 on it.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's just to correct that situation. Yeah, because you look at the Google map, the satellite view, and yes, there is a turnaround that's just kind of developed back there. And if it ain't right, it ain't right.
right, correct. We didn't have any additional easement there. We only had the standard 66 foot. We've got a number of these areas that are dead ends, and these are kind of an item that this doesn't get addressed a lot, but here was an opportunity to establish a proper easement for turnaround of our.
This is good working with the people out there too.
So, do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve resolution 2024-03-05.
Support that.
So we have a motion to adopt resolution 2024-0305 from Commissioner Underwood, support Commissioner Gilman. Is there any other discussion on this motion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Lehman,
Yes.
Underwood,
Yes.
Gilman,
Yes.
Corn. Yes. Campbell.
Yes. Motion passes. Next item is item H, Act 51 Resolution 2024-0306. I believe that's Wayne, you again.
Yes. So staff has conducted a inventory of our Act 51 roads. Previous mileage by MDOT that was accepted was for 1,021.5 miles. Our corrected map inventory is now 1,021.17 miles, a difference in totaling of 0.33 miles. That 0.33 miles is a combination of Bluff Road, a reduction of 1,427 feet for 0.27 miles. And then Old County Road 611, 331 feet, that's 0.06 miles. So with that, staff recommends that we approve the Act 51 mileage for 2023, reflect this physical inventory and reported that mileage.
All right, thank you. Is there a motion to adopt?
I'll make the motion to approve the resolution 2024-03-06 amendment to Act 51 road mills for 2023.
I have heard. So there's a motion from Commissioner Gilman to adopt resolution 2024-0306, support by Commissioner Thorn. Any additional discussion on this motion? Seeing none, roll call please.
Underwood,
Yes.
Gilman,
Yes.
Horn.
Yes.
Lehman,
Yes.
Kevin.
Yes, motion passes. Next item, I, safety grant for corridor safety improvements, safe streets. I believe there is a memo that came in. And that's also in your packet here. So Wayne, if you want to make your presentation.
Yes, so this memo that you've got is this is for the safe streets for roads, safe streets and roads for all grant application, that's SS4A. This is through the US DOT, a direct grant come to us through the bipartisan infrastructure law. And these funds are available for numerous types of grants. This one in particular is dealing with improving roadway safety by significantly reducing or eliminating roadway fatalities and serious injuries through safe action plan development and refinement and implementation focused on all the users. Several different parts of this would be the planning grant for the comprehensive safety action plan. And that includes a number of different bulleted items there that I kind of hit upon: stakeholder engagement, collaboration, considerations of equity for underserved populations, policy and process change, strategy for means of project selection, and overall transparent process that tracks progress. So we still have numerous safety challenges in the county, as everyone does. Our capacity issues tend to get all the headlines in the county, but safety remains a persistent concern. So the Comprehensive Safety Action Plan would help steer the Road Commission into making informed decisions on how and where we want to spend safety-related capital improvements. Currently, available transportation funding is heavily weighted towards safety. Even if we decide not to apply in the future for an implementation grant through this SS4A program, there are many different options in which we can utilize state and federal level funding for safety improvements. When we had Steve Deering present at the September countywide corridor workshop, if you recall, he mentioned that sometimes safety improvements can have the added benefit of a capacity improvement, which is the right, if the right project is chosen. So we're looking at there are 3 deadlines available for this. We are working hard at trying to hit the April 4th deadline. That all depends on when we can get our UEI number from the feds. They say it could be up to 30 days. So if we don't make that one, then we'll be trying to apply then for the May 16th or the August 29th. What's that mean to us? How much? What we're looking at, we worked with OHM and WSP, who's worked on several of these different grants for other entities around the state. They are looking at, for our size of a county, at a reasonable grant request of $360,000. That would entail 80% federal funds to the tune of $288,000, and that would give us a local match requirement of 20% at $72,000. So with that, we would look at recommending that the board approve this, and we would proceed on with trying to make the April 4th, and if not that, the April 16th application dates.
You mean May 16th?
May 16th, I'm sorry, yes.
All right, thank you. At this time, are there any questions for Wayne before we have a discussion?
Well, just when you say the grant what we would be ideally suited for is the 360,000 is what you're saying. Is that typically, is that enough to do much, or is there something that comes after that? I mean, that might identify a problem that we have, if we're talking about using that for figuring out what we need, or doing a study in an area in particular.
This would be more for your more global look, dealing and taking into mind and the previous work that we've done with the corridor study and identification. It would be looking at hotspots for safety. It would be looking at capacity as part of that as well. So probably would handle all of everything that we're looking at. We're trying to set it up for planning.
For planning, for study
For
work.
planning.
And then can we turn around and use that then for the MPO applications?
So the benefit of this is through this existing SS4A, there is also direct federal grants available for implementation of those projects. If we didn't want to pursue that, we could use this information to go forward between our MPO as well as going for MDOT safety grants.
Because I'm still trying to find some way in which the MPO is actually gonna help us.
It gives you an ability to apply. That's what it
Yes,
is.
right.
It's like a door to a waiting list.
Okay, yeah,
Any other questions for Wayne at this point?
thank you.
The Long Lake Road and Herpner one,
Wait, that's different.
The difference.
We're looking at different-
We'll get there, right?
We'll get
oh, I'm
there.
sorry, I was
Yeah.
on J, I'm like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, this one
Yeah.
was easy, this makes sense,
Yeah.
I'll make a motion.
Okay, so
Yeah,
Go
I'm
ahead,
sorry.
go ahead and.
All of them.
I'll make, what is the exact word? Let me see if I can help to get.
They're asking the board to approve a 20% match contribution to the corridor safety improvement, item I.
Now I
If we
forget.
receive the grant,
Yes,
that knowing that our responsibility for that is gonna be the.
Right, at this point, I'm just asking for a motion. So what is your motion going to be?
that's what my question was. The motion is to approve a match if we get this, or the motion is to have them apply for it?
I believe we have to have an approval of a 20% match in order for them to apply for it, correct? You have to have that approval
Okay.
from us.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, then
That's the
then
most
I will make the motion to approve a 20% match contribution to the corridor safety improvement application.
Okay, we have a motion for Commissioner Thorn to approve a 20%
Second.
match contribution to corridor safety improvement application, second by Commissioner Underwood. Discussion.
This was the easy one. Yeah,
Uh,
I'm
the-
sorry, I grouped them together.
The,
Yeah.
The one question I had, and this is not for Wayne, but probably more of a Phil question. $72,000 match. I guess it's a combination. If we are approved, we only are committed to that $72,000 if our application is approved, correct?
Correct.
So when would it be within the 2024 fiscal year, or would it be within the
Familiar
25?
with the timing of this project, but we would have to definitely have a budget amendment this year if we were to
Okay, that was going to be my
spend
question.
funds this year.
Do we have a time frame, Wayne, as to when that obligation would come due?
I do not have that answer, I'm sorry.
Okay. So that would require a budget.
I presume there would be a proposal from the consultants at the same time, would there, or is this running through the state
This is the direct grant from the feds.
directly?
So my understanding is that they will be doing this several different times throughout the course of the year. So we could still be getting award on that. And it would probably be based on our timing of when we were then putting out requests for proposals for this work to be done by the consultants. And so until we start to expend funds, we wouldn't have to have that.
Yeah, we would have to be coming back with a proposal for the consultant.
So, I didn't have anything to.
I knew that you would have.
You turned me. So. Do we have to pay WSP and OHM? to make the planning grant application also as part of.
We are working with them under that portion of grants that we have already previously approved. So they are assisting us with putting together some of these numbers and looking at these items in order for us to be able to fill out the applications and submit those applications.
Go ahead.
And to follow up on that, while we're already, we obligated ourselves to using their services for this purpose. Just out of curiosity, what is the scope and cost of this particular portion? I mean, what would they be billing us out at for this particular?
I would have to inquire with them. I'm not sure the exact number of hours that WSP has expended on working on it. WSP is the company that is doing the bulk of this preliminary type of work.
That's the guy who lives up in Antrim County.
Todd.
Todd,
Yeah.
fantastic, yeah.
Any other questions? Questions? The actual study, if the grant is approved, we would be conducting it, or would OHM be conducting?
We would be seeking a proposal in which to, for them to probably put together that information and plan. Good, because this is all dealing with planning and then research. And so we'd be relying heavily on them to put that together.
To put that study together, but it will be 100% funded through the grant.
It would, yes, between
With the-
80%
with our match,
of the
yeah,
Fed dollars
yeah,
and our 20%
understood.
match.
Okay, if there are no other questions.
No, I'm just,
Okay, you're just showing. If there are no other questions, since it involves expenditure of funds, I'll ask for a roll call.
Gilman,
yeah.
Horn,
Yes.
Lehman,
Yeah.
Underwood,
Yes.
Kevin.
Yeah.
We're kind of making, it's beneficial to the community. We're making work for we're paying the consultants to make more work for the consultants.
That's right. That's
Just to be clear,
This is why I clarified the motion,
Yeah.
because
I'm glad you did.
I didn't understand.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
This kind of goes along the lines. I know we're looking at a grant writer and different things. We're trying to utilize some different, resources to try to find some grants.
It's one of those things where you're right, on one hand, it's kind of self-serving, we are creating work, but on the other hand, it's a necessary component
hasn't-
of what we have been working on for months now, which is the strategic planning, the corridor
And
improvement.
we can't get SS4 grants without.
No,
the
right,
experts.
yeah, we have to
you can't.
get, so it is,
That's why it's,
yeah, we don't have the bandwidth to
Unfortunate,
do that.
necessary
Yeah.
evil with the federal grant.
Thank you for the clarification.
Moving on to item J, safety program submittals discussion. Now, just before I open it up for Wayne, for the board's clarification, this is an issue that we discussed at a previous board meeting related to road safety grants through the state program. We approved one project, which is the North Long Lake Road and Straight Road roundabout, dog boat, yeah, or whatever it's called, peanut. But the other two projects that we had, one was for Supply and 3 Mile, 3 Mile and Potter, so I keep saying Supply. And Gray Road and Cedar Run Road, those were the two projects initially that the board considered a motion to apply for a road safety audit. And then I think the two commissioners who made that motion withdrew because we were going to go back to the townships to see if we could get some funding from them. I believe Supervisor Lempool was here and he indicated that Long Lake was going to chip in some money. We were going to inquire of East Bay. So that is why this item is back here. We also have included Hertner Road, also for reasons that staff is going to discuss. So with that caveat, Dan, you wanted to say something first?
say something, we did reach out to those, I have talked to Ron again. Of course, he has to get board approval, but he said that they, he would have. They're long ways behind those projects and he doesn't see an issue. Beth, kind of the same stance, she wasn't sure about her board, but she would definitely do a letter of, recommendation and would be supportive of this project as well.
Okay,
But they can't promise any funding.
okay, thank you for that, Dan. Wayne, you or Derek, one of you had, Derek, I think it was you who had an update on the Hershner Road.
Yeah, so I talked with, TCAPS. They are committed to doing that in 2025. Regardless of their health vote or not, they're committed to going forward with that project.
Okay. So if you recall, we kind of didn't move forward with the North Long Lake Road at Hertner and TC West because we didn't have a firm commitment at that point regarding ECAPs, whether they were going to commit to redoing their internal driveway. So that information came to us late last week, I believe, and so staff added this back on the agenda in addition to the other two projects. The other thing was, I believe Commissioner Underwood, you wanted to revisit the 3 Mile at Potter Road.
I did.
And so I'll turn it over to
Well,
you.
I'm gonna turn it over to these guys because, in discussions, East Bay is willing to probably do something. Obviously, they have to go through their board process. But the cost of the roundabout versus the cost of what has to happen at the intersection is nominal, correct? I'm gonna let Derek explain why it's nominal. And so why not get money where we could get money to help pay for it on one hand, we'd have to pay for the other one out of the pocket on the other hand, correct?
Go ahead, Derek.
Pretty much.
So if we're gonna look at a signal there, you obviously have to have turn lanes to get traffic out of the way, otherwise the signal's not gonna do it. By the time you add the left turn lanes in, plus the cost of the signal and the operating cost in the future, you're looking at, well, $100,000 if that.
Without getting a safety grant,
Without,
we pay for the whole thing.
yeah.
Derek, could you please put that slide up, the 3 Mile Road at Potter Road, please?
So my point is, we could
Thank you.
get out of the 1.2 million, we could get 750.
650.
Well, the state would pay for basically half of it.
Okay.
Versus us paying for all of it. So yes, we're still spending money, but we're actually
The other
spending
aspect that
money
we,
less here.
the other aspect that we'd like to know as well is from a safety perspective. Is you still get some pretty horrendous crashes with signals. You get people that run red lights. And so you still get high speed angle crashes. And you also get a fair amount of rear end crashes that can be debilitating. Roundabouts, you may get as many or more crashes, but those are all low speed, angle, and predominantly all just property damage only.
So what we have here, just to kind of clarify, at the last meeting, the board was considering for this particular project, a road safety audit. I believe with staff's additional information, we're looking at actually for the board to consider whether we want to apply for a controlled intersection of like a roundabout with that in mind. So that is the difference between what the discussion was last meeting and what we are here to.
Last meeting or the meeting before though, we approved the replacement of the advanced warning signals for a pretty high price there. Would we delay that then?
Those can be salvaged if we're go on the road, put some.
It was kind of expensive.
Advanced, oh, I see what you.
Flash.
We
Flash.
would not recommend delaying of that because of the timing. Those are still gonna get put in and would have a couple years of operation before this project came along. And the nice thing is we're standardizing our equipment. So that equipment would be salvaged and could be used at other locations in the county.
I have a question, and this is more of trying to get an idea. When last year, when we approved some of these grants, can you tell us those grants which had a TOR of around 9, how many of those actually got approved?
I'm trying to remember, we got all of our ones that sent were approved last year, so.
They all got
I remember
approved by
the
the
TORs
state.
for them off the top of my head.
Okay, so all of the ones that we applied for last year got approved.
Correct, yeah.
Okay.
So the difference here is we can apply for a safety grant, which would happen 26 probably, right?
27.
27. And possibly get half of this paid for, or we can improve the intersection after it comes back and pay for it tax.
After what comes back?
Well, we did a traffic study.
Oh, I see
The
what you
studies
mean.
and all
Yeah,
the
yeah, that's right.
They're telling me it's gonna be 1.1 million roughly to do it light. So why wouldn't we apply for a safety grant that would pay for half of the roundabout and cut our costs in half?
I mean, we can do it one of two ways. We can either go project by project and make a motion if we want to. If there's disagreement among the board on, because we have the Herkner Road one coming up. I don't think we had much of a disagreement on the Cedar Run and Gray Road. So what's the board's pleasure? Would you like to just address this? Okay, go ahead.
So right now, we have a high-speed road. It's not incredibly traveled. I mean, it's not like Garfield. I mean, there isn't that much traffic there. The real problem tends to be because of the hill to the north, people coming over the hill. Am I assuming that that's correct? It'd be interesting to know when those crashes occurred, whether it's in winter and what were the prevailing conditions when that occurred, because between 2018 and 2022, or if that's 2018 to 2022, what, 5 years? It says 4, you do the math, it's 4, but it could be 5 years depending on what part of the
We use a 5-year.
And yes, obviously a roundabout will slow things down. On the other hand, let's assume for the sake of argument that the crashes are also from people who do not know that Potter Road is right there, just for the sake of argument. They come over the hill, oh, and there's a road down there, and there's somebody trying to spin out to get across the road from, coming from Garfield or something. Without knowing why those crashes are happening, I'm not sure that a roundabout necessarily is worth the juice isn't worth the squeeze in my view. I like the advanced signaling. I think that's good. I think people need to stop and pay attention. The line of sight at the corner, the view is not difficult. It's not like it was at Potter and Garfield where you got the stanchion. You can't see traffic coming up the hill. You just pull in front of somebody who's right there. I mean, this to me is just not, the juice isn't worth the squeeze. And, frankly, I'd rather there's a 4-way stop there.
I can answer your question. When it comes to these studies, and when we're doing the computations and looking in order to determine what the cost benefit or the time of return is, we do individually look at each and every one of the UD10s, which is the crash report.
Okay.
We look at what the causes were. We look at the description of what the officers wrote on that report. And we only use those types of crashes that are able to be fixed based on what the benefit is. So if we're trying to solve a rear end crash problem, maybe a roundabout's not going to be it. But when you get the high speed angle crashes, that's where these are. So we do tailor the fix based on what the actual causes are. So it's not someone run off the road or slid through the intersection type of a crash that we're trying to use in here to support it.
Could we consider, I mean, what is the you know, and we're still talking about expanding space and use of the right of way. An additional lane, for example, that allows a person who's coming over and out, if there is a stopped car or a line of stopped cars for that matter, or somebody pulling out, perhaps in the high-speed sections, a turn lane and then a pass-through lane. Maybe that could be the solution. And I don't have a problem with the roundabouts anymore.
And we look at
converse.
those, right, and we look at those types of situations, and so if we widen 3 Mile to provide a center left turn lane and a right turn in through combination
We
lane.
spend as
Or
much.
maybe another right turn lane as well, so as to maximize that north-south. Now we've taken that intersection that's only 24 foot wide today, and we've made it about 48 feet because we've added a couple extra lanes. That additional extra time required for a vehicle to then get through that intersection creates a much longer backup time because people don't have that amount of time with that amount of traffic coming down the road. So all these different things are looked at and, you know, so we look at these and have to try to make what is the best fix that we can do for out there.
When you say you're adding time, I'm not talking about putting signals there.
Nope, you're adding time that is required if you do something less. So, and whether you put a signal in, you have to account for the amount of time that car trying to travel across the intersection has now doubled. So you have less opportunities for vehicles to get across there safely.
Oh, you're talking about the cross traffic.
The cross traffic, correct, right, because you have a much wider
Okay,
area.
I was trying.
I was trying to figure
Mentally,
out-
I'm trying to do the gymnastics here, okay.
Right.
All right,
Another thing
understood that, I get.
I kind of look at this, we're still looking at corridors. Where we're doing this at Garfield, we do this at 3 Mile. It's potential to look at opening 4 Mile back up, and that becomes another corridor to cross through there. It's gonna increase traffic quite a bit through that section. And I think we're starting to create another corridor area through there. The other thing is, Joe, you know how many houses are going in that subdivision there?
One on north side of you is 119.
Another, so not 119. Double that roughly, of traffic.
Have we looked at that?
More construction, more coming 3 miles, not gonna be slowing down here.
Have we looked at the engineering around that pond? I mean, is that?
I haven't really talked about it yet, but yeah, it's something we've been playing around with a little bit.
I have a clarification to something that Commissioner Underwood said. So, and Commissioner Gilman, if we do a road safety, let's just hypothetically, if we do a road safety audit, this project, we can bring it up next year, for example, right? Or is this a one shot to apply for funding and then we are done? Because
Push it
something that
back.
Commissioner Underwood said,
It would just push it back further. What the road safety audit does is score you points on your application. Our TOR is already pretty good.
okay,
And that'll,
but I think to what Commissioner Underwood was suggesting, that if we don't do it now, we would miss our opportunity and then we'll have to pay for all of it, which I don't understand how
What I
that's.
said was, if we apply for a safety grant for a roundabout, we can get a grant. If we decide to just put turn lanes in and the signal,
I see what.
we're on our own, correct? Correct.
you could do pretty much that too. I'm not sure if the TOR would score for that type of application, but
Yeah.
that's applicable for safety.
So my point is, if you're gonna spend $1.1 million, why not have half of it paid for by the state?
Well, I will entertain if someone
I
wants to
would
make
just
a
like
motion.
to weigh in on, every time we pick a specific project that takes a disproportionate amount of money, we take money away from hearing the other roads, miles and miles of roads that need attention. Because we're focused on this tiny little area. The half that we would have to pay may be better spent, may or may not be better spent elsewhere. I go back to the stuff that we have let go for a long time because we get focused on these the more intense projects or the stuff where there's stuff like the roundabouts come up. They take a lot of money out of our, this is 5% of our budget, and it's, the 650 would be, if that's it, and that's it's a big ask. In a small place,
So your point is that that's money that's being taken away from routine maintenance.
routine maintenance, yeah.
But if we got awarded the grant, it would be 27, correct? So we can build in the cost to 27's budget.
And it's not the year that it's built.
Yeah,
It's just the point that we're full.
Well, then why would we improve any intersection? That's gonna cost more money.
I think we've worked on improving our intersections, though. And I think, in my view, we spent too much money on intersections and not enough on regular.
But to your point, also, we are also, at the same time, we also have to look at capacity. Because, and to what we were talking about, development happening on that side of town. We can't wait until that development is already up and the traffic is already there and whatever. 1,100 units already built before we start focus, because that takes time.
Well, we're already telling our people that that they have to pay for their own roads. So I don't know how you can say we have to recognize new developments are more important than our existing roads.
I don't think it's that they're, I don't think what we're talking about is that they are more important. We are trying to anticipate the increased volume that's going to be on a major intersection. I don't think anyone disputes that 3 Mile and Potter is a well-traveled intersection, correct? I mean, I don't think that's a dispute.
I don't know what the numbers are if we ranked all our intersections.
Yes, but it's one of the major ones. You would agree. And so I think the discussion is that, do we address it now and start, because again, it's not getting built this year, next year, or even in 2026. Or do we kick the can down the road, and then once it gets to a point where we absolutely have to, now the costs are going up and
That could be said for anything we do.
it could, but we are being strategic here in terms of the intersections that we are targeting as well. We are not just kind of randomly going out there and picking them. So that's my point.
Well, I mean, we're looking at a lot of
We are.
particular projects that are gonna take a great deal of money out of maintenance. One of them might be the Town Line Road, which, oh, by the way, has to happen.
It has to happen.
Okay, we really haven't, have we budgeted for that kind of at all, if we thought about it?
I haven't gotten to that point yet.
Okay, and so we're talking about $1 million plus, just to make it passable.
Yeah.
And, this is, it's like, hey, it's on sale. You save so much money that you can buy a whole bunch more stuff. Well, not necessarily, it's just,
Do you have to do the project though, if you're awarded the grant?
yes.
You do. Okay,
Otherwise,
They don't wanna pay
affects
for
the
that.
future.
it just affects the points in the future, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
The road safety audit, what kind of information does it provide this other than the number of crashes and that type of stuff?
So, road safety audit is comprised of a multidisciplinary group. So you'll have someone from maintenance, you'll have someone from safety, you'll have someone from operations. And these different, specialties kind of come together and we'll view the entire area and be looking at this and going through a list of what they are looking at, deficiencies that are existing. They then also look at, what type of fixes would start to address these areas. And so they would more than likely come back with, number one solution being a roundabout, number two solution being a light, number three solution, additional laneage there and maybe a 4-way stop. But the number one would more than likely be a roundabout because it does not slow down or it does not impede your traffic during the slow times.
But
Traffic.
those recommendations will actually be based on objective data though. We would have
Yeah.
data
Mhm.
that this board can review at that time and say, okay, based upon this data, these recommendations make sense. Because I think some of the commissioners have, if I'm not mistaken, some of the commissioners would like to see that data to justify whether we actually need to spend $650,000, if I'm hearing correct.
like anything, I mean, we weigh a lot of factors in whether or not we're succeeding in some areas, you know, where we ought to be. And whether or not our resources are being better spent on this or that.
Understood.
I do have one question. When they apply when you apply for the grant and there's a decision made, they apply a number of criteria, I'm sure, right? One of the things that you have to do is, when you send the grant in, of course, you send a recording of the vote of the commission. Is that included in the process?
No, not,
Okay.
that doesn't have a bearing on what
Okay.
their.
I'm just
decision
curious
process.
because I didn't know if there's any weight applied based on
Whether it's unanimous or not?
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
I wouldn't think so.
No, it doesn't.
Those
Um,
board decisions are-
Obviously, they want to see support because they don't want to give a
Exactly,
grant
Mm-hmm.
and then for us to turn around and then, say pass. Because then they have to then kind of go back and look at, okay, where else can they kind of, you know, put this money out there to make these safety improvements across the state.
That's just a curiosity anyhow.
But the RSA can be used for applications for funding for the project,
Correct.
right? So it completes a component for apps.
Yeah, it scores you points in your application.
Right, absolutely, yeah.
So we could use that RSA to apply for not just this grant but for other grants too, right?
And it's like a capital
Yeah,
needs assessment
right.
kind of, which
Should actually
used to, yeah.
helps us.
Well, the RSA would be specific to this intersection.
Right.
On that.
Right.
We felt by looking at, all the information that it has it would score high enough, it wouldn't need additional points than RSA would. And we felt that the benefit of a project sooner, built roundabout would be safer all in all for the community.
But we have a company, WSP, that specifically we use for grants, right? I mean, are they limited to applying for certain grants or can they apply for any grants that we want?
We're using OHM, aren't we? And WSP as a contractor for OHM.
OHM.
Correct. Right.
So we have to, so they wouldn't be applying for grants.
So no, so this year, we do this in-house.
No, I meant like if we did an RSA and then applied for additional grants than this, that wouldn't have, OHM and WSP wouldn't have any involvement in applying for any additional grants.
No.
How Derek, you've identified this, if we move down the road to 3 Mile and Garfield, how would something, because that's a kind of a messy intersection. How would something like that compare? Would you have to go through the metrics of this to get back?
I'd have to look at that intersection, so it's gonna get you a TR.
Well, I think we are at a point where if someone wants to make a motion,
Well, I was gonna suggest that we go project by project. to allow-
okay, that's fine. So what's the board's pleasure? Oh,
I'd make a motion that we go ahead and approve the 3 Mile and Potter safety grant
the safety grant as presented.
as presented.
So we have a motion from Commissioner Underwood to apply for the safety grant for 3 Mile Road at Potter Road roundabout. Is there support for that?
I'll support it.
Commissioner Corn is second that motion. Is there any additional discussion on this motion? Hearing none, let's do a roll call on this one.
Corn,
Yes.
Lehman,
No,
Underwood,
Yes.
Gilman,
no.
Chasm.
Yes.
Chair, I make a motion that we approve the safety grant for Herkner and TC West High School.
Okay, we have a motion from Commissioner Underwood for the approval of submitting road safety grant for the North Long Lake Road and Berkner TC West High School project. Is there support for that motion?
I'll support that.
Support by Commissioner Gilman. Is there any discussion regarding this particular project?
I have a question on it.
Sure.
Traverse City said next year they're doing this with or without the bond proposal passing, right? Because like we were just saying, if we get awarded this grant, we have to do it, right? What if something fell apart on that end? Would we have any issues on our end, having been awarded the grant?
That is a fair point.
Okay.
That's one thing I worry about with the plan for this, but it sounds on their end, they're good to go right now.
So they have the funding for this. There must be funding already if they're not relying upon a bond passing. Okay,
Do we get an agreement with them first?
well, that's what I'm
That'd be a
wondering,
good idea.
because a lot of times when you apply for grants, if they're contingent upon another party, you almost have like an out on that grant,
So,
like if the other party fails.
so if Joe, if you were to
Amend it.
amend it to pending an agreement with,
Contingent upon-
Contingent
contingent
upon
upon-
agreeing with TCAPS.
I'll agree
Because
with that.
this, the
Okay.
specifics of this project, I mean, I see things like the
That's good.
reflective plates and all of that, but the other project specifics absolutely rely upon the movement of the driveway in the
You
interior.
make a good plan, Lisa.
Okay,
So, so the amended motion is to approve submission of the road safety grant for North Long Lake Road at Herkimer project, contingent upon an agreement between the road commission and the DCAPS. Okay, so that's the motion. If there's no further discussion, let's do a roll call on this one as well.
Lehman,
Yes.
Underwood,
Yes.
Gilman,
Yes.
Corn,
yes.
Kelly.
Yes. Okay. And then, I think just for as housekeeping, we do need a motion to approve a road safety audit for the Cedar Run and Gray Road.
I actually amended this to include the Harris Road intersection as well. Similar problems, whatever they're doing, they encapsulate it all in one part. It's like-
Okay. So
Cedar Run, Gray.
Harris is the one before
Go
that
from
comes
Gray
off
to
of,
Harris. Yeah,
is it-
Yeah, we talked about this.
Yeah.
We were going this direction.
Yeah,
Oh, I know where it is, by the power.
where the flashing light
Yeah.
is.
I mean, I'll make the motion to approve.
Yeah.
the Safety grant for the Cedar Run Dre Harris Road safety audit.
Okay, motion.
I'll support it.
There's a motion by Commissioner Underwood to approve the road safety audit for Cedar Run Gray Road to east of Harris Road. Support by Commissioner Corn. Any discussion on this particular project?
The Bigland Township Supervisor, Mitch Werner, approached me on this last week again and was wondering how we were doing on the discussions we had and the maps we put up at a big meeting for our corridor study. Because she and Brendan Malone, the manager up in Leona County, were keyed on this Zimmerman Road intersection that would connect to Harris.
Okay,
And I said,
We,
well, we haven't gotten anywhere with that.
yeah, that's kind of stuff.
yeah,
You're
that,
talking about the straight through.
that's straight through to that,
That'd be a good one for the
project.
MPO, which.
And it would, and then we can close off that connection.
turn.
We're hard left there.
Yeah,
That'd be a way to go.
I think there's probably gonna be some right of way acquisitions involved there, wouldn't there be? Because there's subdivision there, the Lone Tree subdivision and,
Garfield Township owns that.
oh, they do, okay.
Yes, what we would have an issue is, the township owns it and they have the, high power, kind of going through there. It's right in the center.
We could bury it.
We could do a boulevard. There are ways around this. There are ways around this.
So the way that
And we're not
Yeah.
moving big power lines. I don't want to pay them to move
Yeah.
big power lines.
That's a great.
So I'm just bringing this up because the Harris discussion is in there years ago when, a lot of talk about, the crosstown transit and stuff. The Leelanau County
Yes.
went through the elk farm and completed 641, which didn't used to go all the way to 72. There's a big gap in there. In anticipation of our fixing this in 1992. So that the traffic heading south out of Leelanau County had a better avenue, an alternate avenue. And we're talking about the crashes at Harris, and I'm just asking to keep what was in our corridor study, and we're posting notes all over it, into our plans, because that's an important route and connection.
Good point.
The way that is set up is, so Brookside Commons paid for Zimmerman Road to be extended to the part where it's at now. And then a couple bought the property behind Lone Tree and were gonna do the single family homes, and then they realized that it wasn't gonna work out for them. So that property is up for sale again, and then whoever buys that, along with the people who buy the other side, they have to pay to put the road in all the way to Harris. That's part of the special or the planned PUD for that. Just like Brookside Commons had to pay for the road, the developers would have to pay. There has to be a public component benefit to a PUD. And the public benefit for those properties is to complete Zimmerman Road to Harris. Which is exactly what WODA had to do for Brookside Commons there when they built that.
Right, but WODA was big and absorbed the cost over
That's
whole
maybe that's what the
project.
challenge.
the developer that had the one project, the
Mhm.
property you're speaking of. The cost was overwhelming
It was.
for the. It would have made the home sites $200,000
That's exactly what it
each or
was.
something,
Yeah.
because, so it's not gonna get done by any developer unless we're
Yeah,
in the mix or the MPO is in the mix,
Right.
or,
Right.
I'm just asking.
that might actually be a good place for the MPO to actually.
I mean, I just bring it up.
No, I
Part of the
appreciate that.
discussions,
Sure.
Yeah.
we're talking about Harris Road and
Sure. All right, no, that's fair, and good observations. If there's no further discussion on this motion, we'll do a roll call.
Underwood,
Yes.
Gilman,
Yes,
Horn.
Yes.
Lehman,
yes.
Hill.
Yes, motion passes. I think that is all for this particular item. Thank you, Derek.
You don't mind, yeah,
Yeah.
real quick, this, I think it's bringing up a really good conversation, especially the 3 mile. Roundabout of, maintenance dollars versus, new infrastructure. I mean, it's something in my new role that I've struggled with looking at is finding funding for everything. And how do we do that? And something I've been looking at a lot is, where can you get somebody to partner with you? Anytime you get somebody to partner with you, I think you can get ahead. SAPs are huge and grants. Even though my passion right now would be to spend money on straight line miles. If you can do something like this, I think it's huge. That's something I'd like to discuss further going on. Maybe a subcommittee or something like that, or where to put some of this focus at, because
I think
it's all important.
I understand the nexus of, knowing that it's gonna be done someday. And why wouldn't you do it when you can get it at a deal, and also trying to satisfy current conditions, the repair of, well, frankly, the main roads that people travel on. I mean, it just, what people see when they walk out of the door of their house in their private neighborhoods where they have to, pony up a little extra because they don't wanna pay, they have to have a culvert at the end of the street or something. I mean, that kind of stuff, it's all. I get that. It's just to the point that, we really have concentrated on a lot of big dollar projects. And I'm afraid that sometimes it makes it more difficult to do the little extra for some of the road projects that we talked about, whether it be Hampshire or Jefferson or whatnot, where maybe we gotta kick in a little just to make up the difference of where we screwed up and gave a bad price. So.
Yeah, definitely funding is an issue. I mean, there's no way we're gonna get caught up. We're getting more and more into the trans maps, and we can do some more presentations about it. I don't think I've had a chance to address this board about it. We did find out what the shortcoming was. I think a lot of you in township meetings have started to talk about it, but we're looking at $221 million is what we would need if we wanted one shot. We had all the funding we needed.
Sure.
We fix all the road, we're existing right now to get us up to a good condition. We need $221 million. If you look at our funding, we're not gonna be able to get there. And even the order, when we search now, we're looking at what, all our roads fall off. Like right now, our overall, our PCI score came back to 65. So we know we're at 65. We don't put in. I don't have it right in front of me right now. It's more than what we're currently putting in. It's almost double what Quinn Rose. We need that just to maintain our 65. Otherwise, it starts to fall off pretty quickly. So start finding different funding resources. I think are going to be huge for us.
All right.
And, just what we have currently is not going to do it.
Well, we can have this discussion under item 8. Those are all good discussions, but I want to keep moving on with the agenda. Item K, as needed professional services. There is a memorandum that was provided to the board separately from the packet. So, Wayne, I believe you want to, you are going to present on this, so go ahead.
Yes, yep. So on February fifth, road crew staff, we received proposals for the as-needed professional services for 2024 year. We received proposal from 12 interested firms for 11 specific interest areas. Our memo, I've got those areas specified out, including road design, water crossing, geotech, bridge inspection, surveying, traffic study / analysis, traffic signal design, traffic signal inspection and maintenance, material testing inspection, construction inspection, and contract administration / office technician. On page 2, provided you a spreadsheet. We had four members of our team performing the ratings of the 12 firms that had submitted. We have overall scores, which is in addition of the 4 raters numbers, using those total numbers. And in looking at the areas of interest that are also noted on here, at the bottom of that is the area of interest, and we took the top 4 firms in those areas of interest and have those identified for you. Our recommendation is similar to what we do with materials, is to look at the particular firm that's rated the highest, ask them that for a proposal based on that area of interest, that specific one. We review the proposal. If they can't meet a specific deadline that we have, or we feel that the rates are whatever reason too high, if they can't provide exactly what we need, we then go to that second recommended. But this also gives us that ability that as we go through and we work with a firm, that if we are unsatisfied with their performance, that allows us to use that history, and we are able to, on the next project, we can go right straight to that preferred consultant that is providing us good information. As an example, we currently are using HRC for our signal work. We had prior to them, we used OHM for a traffic optimization. We had mixed results on that. We were not real happy with what we were getting on that. And so when it came to the next signal project, we went to HRC. We've had very good work with them. We've continued with our signal projects of using that firm because we've got a good working relationship. We are good at getting a good product from them. So with that, we have the identified consultants listed in a ranking from first to fourth on the 11 different areas, and we would seek permission from the board based on these qualifications and experiences with the firms to utilize those following consultants for as needed services.
All right, thank you, Wayne. Any questions at this point for Wayne?
The scoring was 500. I mean, that was.
So the score, yeah, the scoring was based on a 1 to 10 with then a weighted. And so the maximum number a company could get was 500.
And then that, when you put 500 on something, you're comfortable with them, for that particular.
Yes, for that area.
Okay.
Service.
Who's SME?
SMEs, that's actually their name.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I think at one time it was soils and materials engineering, something of that nature.
So the first place company ranked for every one of the areas of interest, there's no local company in there at all.
SME's, actually local,
Are they? Okay.
yep. Yeah, SME is local, let's see here, Wade Trim is
I
local,
think I know them,
um,
but it's mostly OHM here in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
Do you have a
6,
number of them?
7, 8 out of
Out of the,
the 10, 8 out of the 10, right? I mean, I'm reading it right? Okay.
yes.
And then
I mean,
SME is.
They rank very well, yeah.
Okay, and SME is a local company.
Yep, Soils and Structures, Wade Trim are also.
Yep, I know Wade Trim.
Local companies.
I just didn't know.
isn't Gosling local?
Gosling is also,
they're
local,
not.
Fleece and Vanderbrink has a local office. Prina Newhoff has, I believe they. They're Cadillac, but I wanted,
Then they have shippers too.
Fleece and Vanderbrink's local.
And I think this is,
Construction.
Those instructors.
I think Wayne is well qualified to make, in his department, well qualified to make the decision who they should use. The only question I have is if surveying, if OHM is a really good surveying firm and they're $300 an hour, and SME is a really good survey firm, but maybe they're $200 an hour, how do we get from stage one, like, to design roundabouts? You've told us repeatedly that we need the best because this is not monkey business. It needs to be right. But in the other areas, is there really, I noticed on the scores when I read over the chart, in many areas, they're quite close to each other. And as a board member thinking about the budget, I'm thinking about at what point is number 3 a great choice here, because they're local,
Significantly
they're
less.
significantly less to good value. I certainly would not dispute any of your rankings, Wayne. I would just say, and you probably do, I guess, but the OHM we use a lot is very expensive. And I guess that's all I have to say about it. How do we, can you make the choices that sometimes saying, I'd be happy with number 3 or 4 because they're half the rate?
Oh, yes, and we look at that and we want to do that. We want to be able to have that flexibility, because if I want to use some local firms, it's nice to use local firms, when they are similarly, qualified and they're in the same ballpark, then we prefer that. When it comes to maybe something very, very important, if they don't have that much experience on it, we may ask them to maybe get a little bit more experience on that, or to have, provide us a little bit more so that they can guarantee us that expertise. When it comes to some of these others, I mean, I could have looked at, trying to, whittle it down or to deep dive into specifics on that. That'd take a lot more from us. But we do like using our local firms. We've coupled and we've worked with, like, I'll use Wade Trim, for example. I think last time we went through this, I could say Wade Trim didn't score as high because they didn't necessarily have someone that we knew, that we worked with, that we knew what their capabilities were. They do now. And so that's nice to be able to have those, have that local ability right here. So that's where have that flexibility. We're not going to necessarily every single time utilize, and I'll use OHM and I'll use road design, for example. If we're swamped and we can't get to a road project real quick, am I going to use OHM? No. I mean, I'll see what their rates are and I'll see that they're higher, because they don't necessarily have a local office. So, and while roads are not cookie cutters, we can use a local firm for that. and there's not gonna be that exposure, that we have. So we'd be able to go to our number 2 weight trim or our number 3 HRC. That's got a local office here as well, on that. So we do try to look at that. The QBS process allows us to look at qualifications, though it doesn't regulate us into using price alone. So that's the better thing.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I just didn't know how do we look for a suitable and an acceptable, more economical choice. So I guess I want to make a motion that we approve the as needed professional services as recommended by our engineer. I'll support that.
Okay, so we have a motion by Commissioner Lehman to approve the recommendations for as needed professional services, support by Commissioner Gilman. Okay, any other discussion on this motion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Next item, item L, MDOT M113 culvert replacement. I believe you also have a memo here from Wayne, so go ahead, Wayne.
Derek, you want to?
Well, it's, everything says WS.
Yes, yes. This is actually straightforward. This is we have a TWA, a transportation work authorization with MDOT to put this project out. This is through their maintenance, and so they need us to kind of advertise it. The contract administration, the inspection will be done by MDOT. They'll ask us to run the estimates. This is a complete pass-through.
And I was all excited, and I just forgot that it was an MDOT pass-through project. I was all excited. No, when MDOT's a customer, we always overestimate.
We use their numbers, honestly.
Oh,
We
okay.
use their numbers.
So somebody else want to make the motion, or you want, can I make the motion?
You go ahead.
To approve the M113 culvert replacement order to Elmer's for $71,721.87, more or less support.
Okay, so there's a motion from Commissioner Lehman to approve the M113 culvert replacement project in the amount of $71,721.87 more or less, supported by Commissioner Gilman. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, roll call please.
Gilman,
Yes.
Horn,
Yes.
Lehman,
Yes.
Underwood,
Yes.
Chasm.
Yes, motion passes. Next item is item M72 Elk Lake Road, Williamsburg Road intersection improvements. Who's handling that one? Okay, Wayne.
Maybe. The same thing, TWA with MDOT, complete pass-through. This would build the right turn lanes on M72 at that intersection. Low bidder, one bid, low bidder was Elmer's Crane and Dozer for $159,734.88. Some 13,000 over the estimate, which equates to 8.8%. But MDOT is good with going forward with the project.
Any questions for Wayne at this point?
So these are turn lanes on Elk Lake.
M72,
They're on M72.
yes,
The state highway.
correct.
Why does our agency do that?
So this is maintenance dollars that as being a contract county, it saves off about
So
3-4
we're
months.
contracted by MDOT.
And they pay us directly, so.
Yes.
Okay, I
Good
just needed a clarification. I can make the motion
Go ahead.
to award the MDOT M72 Elk Lake Road, Williamsburg Road intersection improvements to Elmer's Crane and Dozer in the amount of $159,734.88 more or less, authorizing the county highway engineer and the clerk of the county road commission board to execute the contract.
Okay, we have a motion from Commissioner Horn as stated on the record. I won't repeat it because it's too long.
I read what they wrote.
I understand that. That's why I stated on the record. Is there a support for that motion?
Yes.
Supported by Commissioner Gilman. Any further discussion?
Just that I'm still amazed that they didn't, after building those wonderful roundabouts in front of Myers, that they didn't just continue the pattern down the road. You know,
The tribe funded those ones,
uh,
this would come out of their pocketbook, so they take
Amazing.
a step approach.
Okay,
Well, we can do turn lanes for 159,000. That's not so bad. At our major intersections. That's not $1.2 million.
okay, if there's no other discussion, roll call, please.
Corn,
Yes.
Lehman,
Yes.
Underwood,
Yes.
Gilman,
yes.
Yes, motion passes. Okay, item N, we replaced it with proposal for structural street fabrication. And that's Wayne as well. So Wayne, why don't you tell us what this is about?
I'm gonna actually, soft pedal this one over to Derek.
So this is our, fabrication or, structural steel inspection for our Denman Park Bridge. They actually go to the plant, inspect the fabrication process, make sure everything is spec that's actually required by our standard specifications. And we received a, bullet from SME for this work. And they have done this work previously for us in the past with a good, working relationship.
So this is an MDOT project again,
This is our project, but it has state and federal money on it.
and this is, they're just reviewing the structure.
The structural steel, when they actually make the steel at the plant.
Yeah, we've actually done this before where we've had to have.
Okay, but like Baltimore just happened, so
Yeah.
I'm all for this.
Yeah.
I'm all for this.
But yeah, I mean, you would think it's part of the process
$30,000.
anyway.
If a cargo ship
But-
comes through there, to the Diamond Park Road Bridge.
Yeah, right.
We're good.
So
They
they're,
won't guarantee it not to fall, even with our review.
so this is not like the structure is not on the bridge. This is like,
Before.
this is before it gets.
This is before it gets to us.
In a factory where the beams are welded out.
For 30,000, okay.
Yeah.
And that's a requirement, by
Yes.
Okay.
We don't get options.
All right, well,
That's exactly it.
Yeah, we don't get options.
do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion. To approve awarding SME, there they
There you
are,
go.
SME. The contract at a unit price bid total of $29,425, more or less, which kills me to say those words as a finance person.
Okay, we have a motion from Commissioner Corn to approve SME's proposal for structural steel fabrication reviews for Diamond Park Road over Little Betsy River in the amount of $29,425 more or less, support by Commissioner Lehman. Is this award to SME, is that based upon what we were talking about? As needed professional services,
This could fall right directly under that,
Okay.
those companies there, so.
so, do you happen to know where were they ranked first or whatever on this type of, review? Because it's a pertinent question based upon what
Yes.
we were talking about earlier with regards to what Commissioner Lehman was talking about.
So for material testing inspection, SME was our preferred, our number one ranking.
So any questions on the motion? Hearing none, roll call please.
Lehman,
Yes.
Underwood,
Yes.
Gilman,
Yes.
Corn.
Yes.
Kevin.
Yes, motion passes. Moving on to item O, which is the disposal of equipment, Commissioner Lehman's favorite item on the agenda. So who wants to handle this one? Okay, Dan, all right.
We're looking for approval to sell the 2000 Schultes. That was the one we use on the states. It was a great mower for us, but since they decided to put delineators every 10 feet, we can no longer use that one really very easily. It's a big operating machine. It was great going straight. So that's where we went more to the disc binds. Chippewa Road Commission actually reached out to us, and they had one, went down and see it, talking about purchasing one. They looked at it, they loved it, they asked if they could buy it.
Fantastic.
They're gonna use it on 75, they're gonna meet.
We can drive up 75 and say, our own blades didn't.
Commissioner Lehman, I'll give you first dibs on making that motion.
Oh, no, I don't want to.
Okay, Commissioner Underwood is the second.
Sure,
one.
I'll
He
make
was-
the motion. I'll make the motion to dispose of equipment, the 2017 mower for 30,000.
Okay, we have a motion from Commissioner Underwood to dispose the 2007 Trophy XH 1000 more to Chippewa County Road Commission for $30,000. Is there a second?
Sure.
Commissioner Lehman second to the motion.
We got both.
Yeah, thank you. Any discussion on this motion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Underwood,
Yes.
Gilman,
Yes.
Corn,
Yep.
Lehman,
Yes.
Kevin.
Yes, motion passes.
May I ask,
Yes.
if we increase the manager's spending limits, would things like this be within the manager's purview to not ask us for?
So that is a very pertinent question, considering the next
Policy.
item, which is the policy update. So purchase policy is something that we are going to be reviewing next. Phil asked for some time so that he could wrap up some things, and then he's gonna work on that purchase policy first, and then it will come to the policy committee and for full discussion. So absolutely, that is something that is on the agenda of the policy committee to review and amend the purchase policy and part of that would be to increase the manager's authority. Thank you, sir.
I want to give kudos to the staff because one of the questions I kept getting asked at CRA was what equipment are we going to get rid of? People actually want to buy our equipment.
Oh, boy.
I had one county come out and say, you're gonna get rid of a grader.
So, if it's okay with the board, I think the next item is a policy update that might be a little bit more detailed. If we could have a 5-minute break to do some restroom break and then we'll reconvene.
Okay, sure. Did we vote on this disposal?
Yes.
Okay.
But we have a tractor mower
did.
purchase, right?
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
just that one off.
I thought we had the motion and the thing. I
Oh,
don't
remote.
vote it.
No,
No,
Okay, so we are in recess we'll reconvene
Okay.
at 7:50, 7:42.
Need it back.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just being We are a little early, it's 7:48, but I believe everyone is here. So Larry, if we are we?
We're good.
So I'll call the meeting back to order. Next item is item P, policy updates. You have in your packet three separate policies. One is, the first one on the, is the County Road Commission vehicle use policy. The second one is the cell phone policy, and the third one is the mailbox damage policy. The policy review committee met on two separate occasions to discuss this policy with staff and HR. And based upon those discussions and recommendations, this is the recommendation that is come before the board. So at this point, I will open it up for discussion unless, Dan, I know Heather is not here, unless you have something to add.
No, still for any questions.
Okay, so
The primary difference is changes from former policy, and that's all I care about, because, you know, what it is now and why is it different?
So the biggest thing on this one is, I know vehicle usage has been a big topic,
Yeah.
especially, you know, perception for the community. So the biggest thing with this one is that, you know, vehicles no longer be going home unless you are on winter patrol, which is during the weekends. If it's your assigned weekend, this person taking vehicle versus, you know, currently right now you have 4 people taking vehicles home. You know, there's a flip side. I do see both sides to it. That, you know, we do have a little bit of quicker response time if we do have a call, but, you know, it's not always, you know, a daily or nightly or even a weekly thing. And technically, if it is an emergency, you know, fire EMS should be able to handle it, so we get there. So it's.
And the other change is that the employee must live within the county limits. So I think we also added that, so that we did have a situation where vehicles were being parked
Right.
at different locations.
Other than the vehicle, because they have to be if they're primary residents within the county or at the road commission, we can't be in other spots.
Any other spots? Go ahead.
No,
Do we want to approve these one by one?
Yeah, let's do it one by one because I want to have a discussion on each and make sure that we answer all questions or if there are any recommendations. The other thing that we also acted up more is to be more specific as to who can ride in these vehicles and what they can or cannot do while they're on company time, because there was a lot of discussion at the committee level about public perception and you know, how where they see these vehicles being, and we get a lot of complaints sometimes as to people wondering why our road condition vehicle is at a particular spot. So those are really the main changes that we in the first policy. So if there is no question or questions, then I will entertain a motion to approve the operating road commission vehicles policy.
I'll make the motion.
Seconded, unless you want to, Joe.
So there's a motion by Commissioner Thorn to approve the operating road commission vehicles policy, second by Commissioner Lehman. Any further discussion? Any questions, concerns?
I do appreciate the next review note to be determined once approved. I mean, because sometimes you have to relook at things, and I don't mind. Now that we have some kind of structure where we can do this, this didn't exist 10 years ago. So I think this is definitely a good way to lay it out.
And just so the board knows, we all already talked about the purchase policy. The other main policy that is on the agenda for the review committee is the SAD policy. So I know that that has been a source of confusion and from a lot of the township supervisors and residents. So that is next on our agenda. And at some point, I believe that the construction committee had something for us to review. So we at some point will address that too. So with that, if there's no other discussion, I don't think we need a roll call vote on a policy. So all in favor of approving the policy, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. The next one is the mobile phone policy. the main change there is that if you recall, we had different pay structures. And we standardized it to $50 per fund and the other requirement is that it have to be a smartphone.
I remember at one point, Bill's like the cheap date on the phone plan or something. He always had the least amount on the phone.
It's still more than I needed.
Yeah.
It's, and everybody's, you're all in agreement that $50 is acceptable.
Yes, we felt that it was.
For the purposes. Yeah.
We think it's fair and, and then if someone wants to have, add lines so far, then they can cover the difference,
Because some people are gonna get less now, because I looked at the
Yeah.
reviews.
Absolutely.
Instead of 115, they're gonna get $5.
It was never taxable and it's not taxable.
Yeah,
benefit.
It's considered a reimbursement, so it's not part of your taxed income.
So that is that's the major change here, unless, Dan, you had anything else that you wanted to point out.
I'd make the motion to approve policy number section EI-16A, the phone policy.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Gilman to approve the mobile phone policy, second by Commissioner Underwood. Any other discussion on this? policy?
When does this become effective? Is it tonight?
I believe it becomes effective April 1, correct?
So we talked about with.
Yes.
We talked about it.
April
I
1.
wasn't sure I saw it in here and I just want to make sure Phil had what he needed as far as like, what do you guys do for payroll or whatever?
Yeah, I've already processed March.
Okay.
So. this is
Okay, so that works out. Okay.
Any other questions? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. The last policy for discussion is the mailbox damage policy, and really what that is, that it cleaned up. We had one that was handwritten, then one that was.
Yeah,
So it was, and then it had all these things about you have to bring it over here and it had to be inspected. It wasn't clear as to what we covered, so
We
we-
didn't address the posts.
we didn't address the post. We didn't have any exceptions as to whether we could fix it right away because of weather conditions. So what we did was we streamlined it. We also made it more clear as to what kind of damage it's actually covered, which is actual contact with our equipment and not because we are plowing and blowing snow and it knocks down something. And then we also added an option for the homeowners who have a valid claim. They can either get reimbursement or they can get us to replace them. If we replace it, it will be our basic mailbox or basic post, and that's their option. If they choose to get reimbursed, it's a straight $35 for a damaged mailbox, and then an additional $35 for a damaged mail post. And then we also had some exceptions in there that allowed us to delay that work because of weather conditions. And we also made it more clear as to how they can submit a complaint, so that it's clear in the policy as to where they have to go. So those are the main.
One thing to address too is that we would never go out and reinstall a mailbox. We ran into several issues in the last few winters where people that weren't able or disabled weren't able to get their mailbox back up, you got the $35. So
Right.
if they want to go with the basic box, we can go back up and just get their box and get their mail.
I have one question.
Hmm,
How did you decide on the two vendors?
That was part of the original policy, if I'm not mistaken, and I think we also, if not mistaken, we get some sort of a discount on the mailboxes and promote, yeah.
And then there was kind of one on each side of the.
I was just curious.
Yes.
Get the road commissioner specials.
Yeah. You order in bulk because, I mean, you get some sort of a discount.
Dan, you said you spoke to us one time with just a little bit off the cuff about this is a problem. And, does this satisfy you as the manager? Does this policy satisfy you?
It gives us the options to take care of our residents now.
And Dan, and just so you know, the people at the review committee, in addition, the staff, it was Dan, Phil, Heather, Larry, so they all had input into all of these policies. Any other questions on the mailbox damage policy? If none, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make the motion to approve. Mailbox policy, what is this number? Section 2-5.
Yes. We have a motion from Commissioner Underwood to approve the mailbox damage policies. There's a second.
I'll support it.
Second by Commissioner Corn. Any further discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
I'd just like to thank, Heather Lynn for going,
Yeah.
spend all the time.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
And for the first time, we're actually, in some sort of organization, now we have policy titles, we have policy numbers, we have who owns it, they can go to it. So moving forward, I think it's gonna be a lot nicer process. It really brings us into the 21st century too.
And I want to acknowledge Heather too, because she really went out, did her research, came back with of what we had recommended with some additional language that we could consider. So, and she did it in a very timely fashion as well. So, all right, moving on to item 8, managers' comments.
Well, I just want to give everybody a couple updates. I know we talked about South Airport. So we did, it's called a RAISE grant study. And we submitted for it, and what it is doing is actually gonna pay for the study of actually replacing those culverts at the bridge. So we did get that in, waiting to hear back on that. So, Zoo Road just keeps throwing us curves. Got some poor samples out there, and they did not come back very good in a few places, so we have to do some more work than we expected, which again, unfortunately reduces the scope that we thought we had figured out, a good option, so.
What do you mean it didn't come out as good? What was it?
The soil underneath doesn't have enough to, you pretty much just gonna
That road's gonna fall apart.
if we pave over, it's gonna fall apart again, so we need to dig that out, put better material in there, which unfortunately eats up the cost of the distance the road was hoping to be able to do. So we're unfortunately have to scale that project back yet again to save the policy. We are gonna be able to take care of the 2 worst areas. And under general maintenance, we're going out there and doing some maintenance to try to save that road, so it lasts longer.
And that has been, the township has been informed of that.
And, yeah, I've been in very close contact with Doug, unfortunately, this is a road that was kind of handed to me, unbeknownst to anyone, and it's been a bad situation where it go, but we are working with Doug and we're trying to help increase it.
So wait a little bit. So,
Okay.
There were some promises.
Okay. You skipped Brian, did you?
Yeah, I'm gonna come back to
All
that.
right,
Ramsey Road Bridge and West County Line Bridge, we're still working on that. We had a pre-construction meeting for consultant design. That's looking really promising, and some really great ideas. Mostly it's gonna be a 24-foot timber bridge out there. And, looks like they're probably gonna be able to fund that for us, so pretty excited about that. Even the seasonal roads.
Those are beautiful too, the different bridges.
The other one, the county line one, there's looking at that, probably be like a box culvert going in there. There's a much smaller crossing. Some great options there. The Brian's turned into a real mess. I know I went around to most of the townships and talked to them that we're trying to get ahead. We're trying to get enough allocated for us. Nobody's gonna have Brian this year. Trying to get ahead of it. We were able to get ahead of it enough that we got allocated to us. But unfortunately, the vendor came back after everything was done and said what they're gonna do is they can't even meet the specific amount that we normally put in there. Calcium fluoride. I think it's normally like 36%. In order to be able to match minimum of who they usually take care of and people that got in a timely manner, they want to lower that percentage by a few. So, of course, that was a bid. We went to the other people that had bid on it. Someone couldn't provide, or they said they were gonna have to do the exact same thing with it. So we did get the Brian allocated to us. We were able to get it. It's just not quite as concentrated as what.
If it was 36% of the dollar, is it
So
32% at 92 cents?
they don't have an exact dollar amount, but they're thinking it's gonna be about 4 cents per gallon savings.
How much percent is that? So if they're gonna reduce the brine by 10%, the brine content, how much is
Yeah, I
4
think
cents a gallon? How much
we
we
were
pay?
looking, I haven't got, this has been phone calls and, I was out of state getting these calls and trying to work through it. We're looking at few percent is what they're thinking of, like a 2 to 3% reduction, what they're putting out, like a 33 versus a 36. So,
How much of a difference does it make? I mean.
Well, I think we had this discussion the first year I was on the board.
Right.
Everybody hated the old brine, the oil well brine. And it's funny because our gravel pit that we worked in last summer provides oil well brine for Wexford County. They come into our county, into our road commission pit and take our brine and put it in Wexford County. Cause they have a contract with a well, or I don't know what,
They have
But
a
that-
contract, yeah.
but
with the
it
state.
was very good brine, the brine we were using in the old days. It was oil well brine. It was, so this is better, but it's gonna be not as good now for the same month.
Because wouldn't we also have to use more now? Or,
no, we're still putting it out, well,
At the rate per gallon. they'll still
the
do
rate per
the same.
gallon that we already do, we do it at lower than what's recommended already. Just to try to get a savings, so we do 1,900 per mile.
so we are not gonna be changing that
It's gonna be the same gallons, just to get a little.
with less concentration.
So less concentrated, it's still gonna be quite a bit better than the oil well brine. And we have seen great results with it, they're always holding together, that comments from.
Are they ramping up production for next year? I mean, we gotta look forward to this kind of stuff.
It's something we're gonna have the conversation with them, and again, it's at the, you know.
So there's a calcium chloride shortage?
The state's forcing everybody.
Yeah, that's
The
the
whole.
problem.
Why is
the
that,
whole-
why
it's a
are,
forced
why are they,
changeover.
yeah, why is the decrease? What's the cause of?
I believe what started this whole thing out was Eagle came after brine total, they wanted to
Right.
stop it all.
Yep.
They went after the oil well brine. So nobody was like, oh, yeah, we can't do this, so everybody's charging in, trying to get their hands on this calcium chloride, which is causing a shortage.
Right, okay, so it's a material shortage issue.
So what are they doing with the oil well brine now? Just leaving it?
No, they used it all. It's just. Well, maybe there's less oil well brine. Because the guy who came into our pits, yeah, I have to come here every 2.5 days or the stuff overflows out on the ground. I have to be here to. Cause the tanks fill up and it's gotta be there in order to do that. There's a certain amount produced, but. The guys in Wexford, they have their own special equipment that they pump it out of the oil well. It's quite a process to watch. We don't apply ours. I know Mason County, another county I work in, they buy we buy it from, but they apply their own. We don't do any of that, Dan, right? We don't apply our own, right?
No, it's been several years since we've done our own, we had these called the pickle barrels. And they probably fell in such bad disarray that we had to no longer use them.
I mean, is that something that if the shortage is not alleviated or remedied, that at some point it could be considered as a supplement to the brining? Like using the oil well brine?
What we've started to establish over the last few years in this calcium fluoride, through Great Lakes. It actually has residual in it, it's actually building our
Yeah.
roads up. So if we get away from it, the oil well brine just dissipates within no time flat. So it's nice to stick with it.
No, I'm not saying moving away with it. I'm saying that if this shortage doesn't get corrected and we keep facing this issue of, and we get to a point where we are not able to adequately apply brine on where it needs to be applied, would we then be willing to make the shortage up with oil brine? Or are we just going to keep cutting how much we are applying to these roads just to stick with calcium fluoride?
I think we'll have to see what happens in the future, but I would think we would maybe choose certain roads that would get the oil well brine. That are not heavily traveled, there's seasonal roads that townships want us to do, maybe they would give them oil well brine, which would leave our applications. for them.
You started to talk about the residual effects, and one of the advantages, of course, of the calcium chloride that we've been using is that they can grade the road and it just resets with the road. And over time, I mean, we're kind of in a better place now than we were, say, 3 years ago.
Yeah, there's several roads that we've been out right now and actually met with John from Mayfield. We're out walking South Ray Roads project we're gonna start on soon. We're walking that, and he was just saying how amazed he was how great a condition the road was in after winter. He said normally this thing was falling apart over the last year or two. He's like, he's noticed that.
Right.
Worth a lot.
And I'm not disputing that part. I'm just trying to say that if we have a backup plan, should we get to the point where we are not able to use enough of the product. Okay,
I'm gonna say it bluntly, depending on November's outcome, you might not be able to use oil brine.
and that's true too. Yeah, that's entirely possible.
Are they okay with the calcium chloride then?
They were
So
not,
far,
they're so far, but
they
yeah,
have to be.
they have to be.
Okay,
Yes,
so we
they-
aren't looking at something that's gonna be limited more.
You gotta remember, you got this division that says don't use it, you get this division that says you gotta. use it.
Right, but the two don't.
Same department.
Okay,
They don't want people to use whatever it was, salt or something, right? That's why they want the manufactured calcium.
When I manufacture, they don't want
Yeah, they
natural.
don't want natural.
Yeah, they don't want natural occurring.
They don't want natural stuff, correct? Yeah, they don't want natural stuff, they want the manufactured.
I just wanna make sure we're proactive if we foresee a change in policy potentially coming, that we look at alternatives.
Yeah, that's what I'm, you know.
Yeah,
You're alluding to with
Yeah.
this.
But not the oil brine.
It
I
was
mean,
such a shock.
third possibility is
Oh,
what
I
I'm
It was such a
talking
shock
about.
to our vendors,
Yeah, I don't
they
know.
didn't even have all the information they could give us, they just wanted to give us as early warning as possible. And they can probably, once we actually get through the shooting list, of what next year's looking like, they were pretty disappointed.
But the operations people, those of you who inside the road commission here, have liked what's happened with the calcium chloride, and that's what we want if we can
Yeah,
continue to do that.
Absolutely, that's what we want, that's the best product, yeah. Any questions for Dan or any comments regarding any of the items under item 8A?
But I do have a couple more that didn't make it.
Okay,
A couple rough notes there. Got it just right before we came into the meeting here, OHM has came up with a proposal for the Heartland West 31. So for more information to come on that. I haven't had time to read through it yet. It actually came in just right before we started the meeting here today. We did talk about the four-way stop there a little bit. I did want to mention that, getting really good positive feedback with that. So I think that's.
on Riley.
On Riley.
Yeah, no,
That's exciting.
Something I think they've been trying to get done for several years, so.
And you guys turned back the branches and stuff too there.
Unfortunately, the trees were outside of the right of way, so we knocked on doors and talked to people, explained what we're trying to do, and the residents in there were very responsive to it and understood, because they see what happens there.
it's been very well received by the township. I want to acknowledge Supervisor Radke's, his post that he made there, basically thanking and acknowledging our work, so, no, good job there.
The other thing, I know we updated the website and we showed that it had a link now for where townships could go. I said there's an SAD section coming. You do have that now, there, you have the ability to
sure.
kind of pull it up and show everybody that we've
Oh, fun.
made some more progress on that.
What are we looking at, Dan, again?
So on the website, we created that, quick link for townships. We didn't have anything for townships before. So now I can actually go to townships. We showed that at the last meeting,
Mhm.
and we said that we had SADs coming,
I
and
see.
we now have them, so,
Also, click on that station.
yeah. And there's a nice step to walk through.
Oh, I love
Rachel
that.
did a great job with it.
Okay, that was what we were talking
It
about,
shows-
the diagram that.
Yeah, diagram, shows step by step, with processes. We're working on timelines now. We have reached out to a few township supervisors. And we're trying to get some feedback of what, realistic time is, how long each step would take, but at least it kind of laid it out. We did add a new step in there where we actually meet with the resident and be appointed from the township on site, so we can talk about some of these projects. So we don't run into what we're doing currently where, they're on a 20-foot road and
Right.
we just want to put 20 foot back. We explained, you do a 20-foot road, you're gonna probably have a crumbled road again before you get your SADs, paved off if you go to 22, so.
Some advice before they go
So
forward.
not
with their-
surprised when they see
their
what's going on, or we could talk about culverts or
Good
different
idea.
weird things to their road, so it's not just a random shock when we explain the situation in person. The township person.
This is really great.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Dan, if you're free Thursday, it's the Township Association lunch.
They keep telling me they're gonna invite me, but I haven't gotten invites.
You might want.
It's
That would
just
be
like
good thing
a-
to bring up there.
A known thing.
Oh, is it?
You don't get
Okay.
invited either.
Yeah.
we'll forward you the invitation, yeah, I think the
I
commissioner.
really would see-
I get invited, I get invited, we all get an email, I think, I get emails from Tracy, yeah, but, correct me if I'm wrong, Dan, but, this information is gonna serve as a template for the SAD policy as well, correct?
Yes,
Yeah.
we have, again, policy committee looking at maybe doing a little something different with these to try to help with a little more funding there. So hopefully we bring that at the next week.
Alright.
Good.
This is so good. Like, I know we say thank you and I hope you know what we mean when we say that. And all of the people that work here Cause this represents a lot of people's work.
So
Yeah.
the bigger question is, how are you getting this information out to all the townships? So
So-
that they know that that's now there.
Yeah, that's the next step. Obviously, every time we go to a township meeting, we need to reach out and let each township individually know if that's on there.
Well, ultimately, they meet for lunch.
That'll work.
That will work, and also I
Yeah.
think you can do an email thing too.
Yeah.
And
Wednesdays noon.
just kind of send an email blast to all the township supervisors or township board
That was
trustees,
Something
whatever.
we were actually just talking about, maybe a good thing. We were talking about, how to get more involved with townships and do updates. We send out our weekly updates.
Yeah.
Everyone, we didn't know if maybe there was something to send to the townships as well.
It's not a bad idea because it covers everything and they know what we are doing. So it's a great idea to include them on the updates so that everyone knows what we are doing.
I would consider sending it to all the townships, elected officials, not just supervisors.
Yeah, I mean, that's what, yeah, just, I don't know if
Right down to
you,
the board, just, because sometimes it doesn't filter down, I can tell you that.
yeah, to the extent that you have their email
Yeah.
addresses, obviously. Anything else, Dan,
Uh,
that you need to cover?
we were talking about both for a little bit, but I think,
Mm.
Commissioner Corn did a great job with that. Thank Jennifer a lot. She was a great help with
Yeah.
that, and we're really hoping something comes of that grant.
We attached the picture of Senator Peters on the Bluff Road collapse to. But like, he was for that, like, yeah.
at that?
Yeah, just reminding him that he was, part of this and had had this conversation before. And,
Yeah, all those spells.
Dan Olson, who is, working for the county prosecutor's office now, but lives, off of that road. He was helpful, like residents that live there. I mean, everybody at the table at the committee was very happy about. Cause we're ultimately all working together. We're on the same exact team. We're just trying to fix a road and get it open for people. And I think, and I credit Dan with a lot of that, like the change and Dan being in there. Huge difference, huge difference.
Right. Anything else?
One of the things we talked about, we had a special meeting scheduled for 2 weeks. So if everybody thought we needed to, or if we needed to.
Well, you tell us when, I think, that special meeting, so I am, that special meeting was, I think.
April 11th, right? Second Tuesday, is that
Yeah,
what we're talking about?
special. So what's let's go on, that's item B. Are you done with item A, your manager's comment?
Yep.
Okay, so moving on with item B. The next, our special board meeting, which we have every other month, is right now scheduled for April 11th. I guess the question for staff and the board is, do you feel, last time we kind of waited and felt that, let's get closer to it and see if something comes up. I mean, is that the same, what we want to do now? And
If we don't have enough for the agenda, then that's.
yeah, I don't want to have a special meeting just if we don't need to have it, but if I also don't want to cancel it this early.
We are getting into a busy season, so. it's-
Yeah, we don't
I
want to
think we could cancel this one. I think having some of these subcommittee meetings are a huge help.
Okay.
We might feel that we could go
So,
for a smaller one, breakout sessions kind of, but I think we should cancel that.
so if you can then remove that, is that the consensus of the board? Okay. So if you can remove that from our website. Item B, I'll start this time on the other end with Commissioner Lehman.
We've covered everything I had on my mind, thank you.
Okay, Mr. Dillman?
The only, I'm just curious, okay, so we own the house that we went out, you worked a good deal and everything. And there are still utilities available to it if, can we put a renter in there until we decide to destroy it, or, I mean, why not capitalize on the need for space in the market at this point? I bet we could probably get $1,000 a month, $1,200 a month, easy, like tomorrow.
Didn't it come off the tax rolls?
I would, before you do that, I would, encourage you to consult with legal counsel to make sure that that is something we can
Okay,
actually
I just,
do.
Legal insurance probably.
Yeah,
Legal counsel, we were going to
yeah, that's right.
talk about
Yes.
advertising for professional
We did,
services.
we did. If that was part of the updates that went out, I think the bid is due April 13th. Okay.
Next board meeting will have.
Yes, we did do that and so, yep.
Currently out to bid.
I just, it's just, and I'm probably even low on that.
You are.
Based on our arguments. Okay, the point is, well, it's not that much of a place. It's.
No, I know.
But the point is, until it's moved or bought or destroyed or whatever the heck we're doing.
That was something I was probably gonna bring up here, in the next meeting. Now we're trying to get through winter. If we wanna look at selling that place now, or moving on from it, or,
You mean selling the building and having somebody move it or something?
Yeah.
That'd be great too. That'd be ideal.
yeah, how we get past the.
The other one, when we were ready, we were kind of in a hurry to get it out of our way after roundabout construction, since we're way ahead of the game here.
But if we could put it up and have some time for people to consider and look at the logistics, I mean, it is a small building, it could be moved easily.
But I thought we bought it just because for future right of way issue.
That's right. So think of that.
So I would say take the house
Yeah.
out.
But why would we
Sell
sell?
the house.
Sell the house.
Yeah,
Put the house out, not the
Yeah.
property.
I was gonna say, okay, that makes sense, all right.
And then they move it out of there.
And have we gotten any further with the other property owner there?
So it's kind of an interesting situation. I need to try to reach back out with them again. We talked about that. They call it a caravan, not a trailer park. They're out there in California. I have talked with them. They were interested in that back parcel or just the front parcel, trying to figure something out there. They were at a point where they wanted to put a pause. They were waiting for the township to approve that they put more trailers in. I think they may have done that now. so-
Yeah, because I know the township was going to. They're happy with that.
Yeah, what time where it was left that we were gonna try to, in the springtime, they usually come in town, we try to get together and.
So this may be relevant information. Long Lake Township just recently formed a steering committee to look at the master plan on that activity center area, which covers this area, and make recommendations to the board, to the township board, planning commission, township board. I am part of that steering committee. Fortunately, the first meeting is on April 25th and I can't attend, which reminds me, I also am not going to be here on April 25th for our board meeting, so you would have to lead that meeting. So there's going to be a lot of discussion happening from that steering committee that would be relevant to what's the future of that mobile home park there. Any other issues?
Good.
I think I'm all set. You're gonna make some comments.
Oh.
I agree with if you
Oh.
make them.
Go ahead, make comments.
Just in looking at future planning and things that are happening, our airport is not in a great location. I guess I'll just say that. With the growth that we're looking at and where it's located at, it never was meant to be the third largest airport in the state located there. It's really where the US Naval Base was during World War II. And they did training, and of course it was a private airport. And I wonder about the airport's thought process on potentially when they build a new terminal, moving it somewhere out of town where we don't have these transportation issues that we're talking about. Still keep it as a military and private airport. I think many of the residents in this county greatly underestimate the amount of private planes that fly in and out of our airport. It's a significant amount of traffic. And we had just had a discussion about this and some of the discussions that are coming up with future planning with the airport. All kinds of things like traditionally at airports, rental cars are off-site. There's a shuttle for that. Long-term parking can be off-site, things that can be looked at for better ingress, egress. I would love to see a better public transportation option with our airport. I don't think we have a useful one right now. And I would love to see all those people at a table discussing this, and the road commission should be part of it because we have significant infrastructure needs in our roads surrounding the airport right now. But if we're doubling and building new terminals or building a cargo terminal, that matters. And it's an unusual location for an airport, as we all know, because of the discussion with the air show that's going on right now and why we have these issues with high performance aircraft in air shows that most every other city doesn't, because They don't have their airport located
the middle of the
in their city.
Yes.
Right, so just kind of things to think about and being proactive and opening up your mind a little bit in these discussions with the airport of really what is that long-term goal for the airport? I know that they intend to build a new terminal next to the current one. I guess that was just something we had some discussions about and, I'm happy to, as your liaison to the airport authority, to discuss that. And then just a quick thing on the policy committee, I think a lot of the standstill on the policy committee was because you could sit there and envision a million different possibilities. Well, what if this person does this or this person does that? So what I just want to be really clear is there's a lot of change for the staff. So like, if it doesn't work, know that you can talk to us and we can revise these. Like, if this just doesn't work and you come up with a what if scenario, you have an employee and so, because you can only sit around a table, Hyder and I and Dan can say what if a million times and we still need to move forward with the policy. So just know that that communication is always there. There is never like, if something isn't working for somebody, we really want to hear about it. So.
Can I make a quick addendum to what she said about the airport? So when you look at this third business airport in the state, Detroit Metro Airport's in Romulus. Grand Rapids Airport, the second business one, is 45 minutes south of town. There's a reason the airports have to move. And as we get into pushing 200,000 people in the county.
Yeah.
You might as well start thinking ahead, because,
Kingsley.
well, Buckley.
It's the Grand Township Airport.
The Grand Township Airport.
I just would encourage that board. to-
Please don't put it the wrong leg.
But ideally out there. And I know it's leaving all kinds of ball too, but you gotta think about how this growth is gonna. When we get to 200,000 people here by 2040, 2050, that means the area is gonna be a couple million. When you put the surrounding counties into it. You gotta think ahead, because otherwise you're gonna get yourself boxed in. But until then, let's sit down and work with them so we can make sure what they got works.
I think it's nice that the airport isn't 40 minutes from my house. That's the reason I live here, but it's 12 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can walk to it in 12.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not much.
Well, we just had another airline though go into contract with the airport, so it's just things to think about. It's not a personal opinion of mine. I love our airport and where it's located at. But I do want to make sure that everybody that sits in a seat of decision making opens up their mind to just making sure that you consider alternatives and what we can do to make everything better, easier, and more efficient for people that live here. That's our job, and safe.
All right, I just had one suggestion, and I guess I'm looking for input from the board. I know that over the last few months, we have been talking a lot. We have been doing sessions and about corridor studies and capacity issues. Does it make sense for the board to actually form a subcommittee dedicated to that corridor study? Because the reason I bring up is that in light of the discussions we're having right now and in the future, I know we have had a good strategy sessions, but they have been obviously bigger sessions involving a lot of stakeholders, which is great. We still want to do that. But where are we internally on making progress on that work? And does it merit creating a subcommittee to actually start focusing in on some of the information that we have gleaned from those sessions and some of the strategies that we have been working on, and start putting them into more of a clear focus?
This kind of mirrors our conversation we had earlier where, in my new role here, trying to struggle to find funding. Something that I'm realizing quickly and, the first couple of weeks figuring out what's going on right here at the crossing of the bridge. I don't know that we have the funding to do these corridors or do these extra structures. I mean, luckily we have millage to do basic road maintenance, but take the next step of how do we do Zimmerman? Hopefully MPO opens that up, or do these corridors that we want to. The funding's not there, so we need to identify the funding, grants or something like that. So maybe a subcommittee that could look into some additional funding options. Otherwise, if you do a project 1 year, you're not gonna do any new road improvements or maintenance that year.
So let me clarify, when I'm talking about corridor, I'm not talking about projects like the Hartman Roundabout or things like that. I'm talking about existing corridors and working on, for example, South Airport Road. What can be done there? And similar corridors, 3 Mile, you probably have other examples, North Long Lake Road. We're talking about, I'm more talking about existing corridors and working on what we can do to address capacity issues on those existing corridors and maintenance, as well as what we have called as redundancy or resiliency issues. So that's I'm not talking
Yeah.
about punching through
Yeah, no,
this
no.
road through this field and punching through
Even-
Harris Road, or I'm not talking about
Yeah,
that.
even that, I think we talked about, like, if we were to add, or, when I think of corridors, how to move people faster, you might be looking at a roundabout. I don't think we have the funding for that. We could definitely look at some maintenance issues, but upon general maintenance, past that, to do improvements to these corridors, no matter what they're doing, I don't see the funding.
I was thinking that
But,
last year when we decided we'd meet every other month, I thought that was some of the things. If we did them as a working group or a working session to brainstorm, and that's what I hope to do things with. Maybe all of us, and maybe down the road, there would be a time for a more detailed look. But I don't think we've even brainstormed enough together, and maybe if we don't have action items on the thing, we should use these every other month to do just some brainstorming.
And that's a great idea, because here's what I'm getting at. For example, Town Line, okay? Town Line Road is not, we are not doing anything new, but it is going to be a corridor, okay?
Mhm.
And it does require work, and we projected it for 2024. And one of the remarks at the county board level was, well, why wasn't it planned? Why are they? So I want to get ahead of that, those type of projects. We have talked about Frankie Road. What other roads are there in the county similar to Town Line, similar to Frankie, similar to that we
And
should be
Hyder,
looking at?
that's why I'm concerned about our focus on these special
Mhm.
projects over the last few years. Cause Dan's telling us, hey, right now the money isn't here, but every time we focus on a general project, it takes us away from Frankie Road. You know?
Particularly change of use.
Okay.
And change of.
It really, our resources are really limited. And then we kind of, so we've got a bug to do something here, and we do that, and it takes away the repair scope. I mean, things like Frankie Road,
It's our
Town Line
Frankie,
Road,
for example.
should have been done 10 years ago.
Exactly. So how about we use these special meetings to start talking about those, so that we actually start coming up with identifying and coming up with a plan on how to address it. So that when we do come up with these little projects, we can actually say, no, we're not gonna spend it on there
So are you-
because we already have this
Yeah.
strategic plan. in
What are you
place.
asking us about? Like MDOT, they have 5 years, you can see their 5 years. Is that what you're after?
Yeah, I want to start working on existing
And then
infrastructure.
that's one of my main goals. 3 years is my first goal, 5 years is the next one. So with what we've done recently with Transmaps, staff is building that. And I think it'd be helpful if staff laid out their thoughts and then bring them to the board. And we're really close to actually being able to start to dig into some of these things, so we're getting the information back. And that's more data driven than personal feeling. And then.
Right,
we
you're
do
working
that,
with the data.
we can show
We have to.
everybody the data, and then we can show, hey, we personally know from living in the area, this makes more sense than that. And I think that's where the board could, really shed some light. on.
So the next special meeting, it would be in the month of June, right? I would think that would be sufficient time for your staff to at least gather some preliminary data to start having a discussion, or how long of a time or do we need to, I mean, I'm hearing you to say that let's give staff an opportunity to gather some data.
The staff's been working pretty hard at going that again.
So what's the time frame?
I'm actually gonna refer back to Larry a little bit and see how he's feeling.
I think June, we could probably get something in front of you to start the discussion, and then try to get a direction from you guys on
Okay.
what you want and what you're thinking. I mean, I get where you're saying, we have an asset management plan that we follow for general maintenance and trying to upgrade our our primary network. Obviously, the big thing is our local network that doesn't have the funding. And you'll see that right away. I mean, a lot of the maps that you guys have, you'll see that right away. But we have those corridors, which I think if we do projects in those corridors, we can potentially say, hey, can we improve capacity in these corridor areas? But still, in marriage with our asset management plan. So some of that we could probably get together in June to discuss.
So let's keep the June special meeting on. We're not going to cancel that. Okay, and it will be specifically dedicated to start discussing improvements to existing infrastructure. That's how I want to word it, okay? Because I agree with Commissioner Gilman and Commissioner Lehman. I'm not in favor of new projects at this point. And so let's look at how we can improve our existing infrastructure and start planning for them so that if we ever have to go to the county or something, we at least have a plan as to how we are going to, what we are going to work on, how we're going to fund it, and then how we're going to fill any funding gaps.
And I think we're on the same page. It's definitely the direction we've been trying to take staff. Like I said, I think we're getting really close to that. What personally for me is a struggle right now is I find them both equally important.
Mhm.
And I think they are. We gotta maintain what we have. But when we do the saver roads, we still need to look at, the growth is huge from our area and just trying to find where to put that money in the funding it's huge. I don't think one's less important than the other.
It's not, but we have to focus on where our abilities lie and what is more realistic.
Yeah, and on the funding issue, state level wide, because I sat through the meetings with CRA, they're still hoping for a gas tax increase this year, but long-term funding, whether you agree with it or not, I'm not a huge fan of it, but they are pushing towards mileage fees. I'm not a huge fan of it, but I've always been a fan of you tax the energy, whether no matter what kind it is. But there'll be changes probably next year, 25, when we see a pilot or something.
They're very.
But they are hopeful that they'll be able to get.
One of the intrusion into your Fourth Amendment, I mean, it just, you follow people around and I'm sorry.
I know.
It's not right.
I said,
And I
I'm not a
wouldn't,
huge fan of it.
it's not even being not a huge fan. It's just wrong. It's ethically and morally disruptive as far as I'm concerned. So.
Are
Lansing
there
goes
other
into
forms
useless.
for funding for just regular maintenance? I know you talk about the millage. And when we talk about these grants and things, it's always projects. Are there, just because I'm not real well versed in transportation funding yet, are there other options for, in housing, which is my wheelhouse? We have different kinds of funding for whether we are renovating or renovating, maintaining existing housing, or we're building new housing. Is it the same in transportation where you have grants that you can apply for maintaining existing infrastructure? Or are these grants really for acquisition and creation of new infrastructure?
I'm still learning quite a bit about this myself, coming more from the maintenance side of the road.
Yeah.
But from what I'm finding, I'm not seeing that there's a lot of grants, a lot of opportunities out there. And if there is, there's a lot of hoops to jump through.
Okay.
And your chances are very low, but something I definitely want to dig into more for sure. Most of them I'm finding out is when you get into an area of what really makes their, like PACER rating high comes down to individual townships taking ownership of the roads in their township and having a special, assessment, or they have their own millage for the roads in their township. And that's really where I'm seeing most of it's multiple layers. There might be an overall one, but then the township truly, we have enough funding to maintain the roads, plow the roads and fix them and lines, but there's not really any funding set aside for rebuilding.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because we could really leverage dollars out of a budget for matches on, I always use the word reno just because that's what I do, but on a reno, like Zoo Road, let's just throw that out there, right? And it's interesting to me because one of the big changes in housing was the brownfield legislation was changed. And now basically anything that is housing is brownfield. it was a really sweeping thing in Lansing that they did, and I'm curious about legislative initiatives in transportation. Coming out of the state and federal, it would just be interesting to know. I feel like there's a potential for something there if it doesn't already exist. And we would be able to do exactly what, because I agree completely with what Alan's saying. We would be able to really stretch those dollars the way that, like Joe had brought up, oh, well, we should apply for this grant because that money is there now, right? But then Jason brought up, well, you don't just spend money because something's on sale. All of you guys are right? But if we have that ability to leverage dollars like we would on a roundabout with maintenance, then we're moving forward. And that would be great to learn. I don't know who the people are that are experts.
Isn't the MPO supposed to bring some of that to us? And isn't the size of our county like, we get reimbursed so much per urban miles. And that's, it's at a much greater rate. Some of those things are already exist, but maybe it's just really still small.
And are they maintenance dollars?
So
or are they-
MPO is, I mean, Dan or, I don't think Wayne is here, but he would have been able to answer this. My understanding is the MPO projects are not as much focused on the kind of repair and maintenance projects that we are referring to. They are more in terms of what we were talking about earlier, the corridor capacity.
It's
those
like how
type
you
of,
build an interstate.
Yeah, and it's more
Yeah.
regional. It's more of a regional transportation. And it's not just vehicular traffic, it's multimodal transportation modes.
It's a new airport, south of town.
Yeah, it's that kind of, they're not going to be looking at what we are talking about, Frankie Road, Town Line Road, those type of projects. What there has been discussion about is at the county level, using some of that pot money. Toward,
That pot for pothole.
pots for pothole.
Yeah.
So that is a funding option that's there. Obviously, that depends for,
Look, I'm all for it.
a pot for potholes makes sense to me. But that's a discussion that's why we have to have this, this special meeting in June, and we'll have a whole meeting dedicated to that. So if there are no other further comments from anyone, we'll move on to the second public comment. Anyone from the public that wants to address?
Oh, hold on, Joe, I gotta.
Okay.
You coming back, Joe? Is that?
Any person may make an advanced appointment with the board regarding road commission topics for a regular or special meeting in accordance with the Open Meetings Act. If an appointment is made, the topic will be an agenda item. Following applies to public comments. Please state his or her name and address. Topic must be relevant to the road commission. Individuals are allowed to speak once for up to 3 minutes on a single topic, which may be extended by the chair. A group addressing the board requires a designated spokesperson who may speak up to 10 minutes. The board will not act on any item from the public that is not on the agenda.
Just wanted to say, Joe Slanky. I was gonna introduce myself, but I know most everybody here. But just say that, I'm here for Waitron, and just listen to the meeting and appreciate being selected for being able to provide services to the Grand Traverse County Road Commission, and we really look forward to, helping out where and when we can. Everyone I work with, we all live around here, and have a pretty vested interest in what we do, and appreciate what the Road Commission does.
Thank you, Joe. There's nothing further. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to approve.
The motion to adjourn, all in favor? Aye. Motion, we adjourn.